All right, and we're live. So today we're gonna continue our playthrough of Kara no Shoujo, the second episode, also known as the Shell Part 2 Purgatorio. So today, we're gonna continue from, well, we briefly just recently returned to Tokyo last session, and but before we did that, we had a little bit of a more, I guess, new insights into the case while we were in Hitogata. So, if you remember correctly, we ended the session before the last one with Yuka Kirimura being murdered. So, we dug a little bit deeper. And we found out that all of the victims so far, except for Yuka herself, have been bridal candidates for Ayato. And we already had like some suspicion of that, but Reiji was able to confirm that with Hideomi, who was, as you maybe know, in pretty poor physical condition. And another thing, Ayato was, of course, suspicious again to Inui, who was also there in the settlement, because all the murders so far have pretty much happened around him. And as such, he was treated again like a criminal. Poor Ayato. Can't catch a break, that guy, apparently. And, but what he did actually almost get discovered for killing Saya all those years ago. Inui was probing into the fact that, why he all of a sudden left Hitogata all these years ago. And I had to kind of navigate his way through that, sort of in a confident way, but there was almost one point where the inspector tricked him, and he only managed to avoid that. Well, the inspector was like, Mr. Tokisaka told me something interesting about your past, and but before he could mess it up, I had to say something wrong. Tokisaka himself, who was also in the room, intervened, and that disaster was avoided. He did not get uncovered for killing Saya, who we have no sympathy for at all, because she's a bit messed up in the head, apparently it seems. But tis what it is, I guess. Um, yeah, she was like very obsessed with Ayato's mother and also Satsuki. So she was actually the one uh, who removed her limbs when she was killed, and yeah, so and then she kind of caressed her own cheek with the hand of Satsuki at some point, which actually led to the murder later on by Ayato. But a long time ago, and it just kind of acted out of impulse and not particularly because he's a bad person or anything, which does not mean you should be murdering people, of course. But, just why we're taking his side here, I suppose. And also because we know at this point that he's not really the killer. We know that these murderers just happen around him. And as a core as a consequence of all this stuff, bridal candidates, um, we did ask Hideomi who else was on the list, but of course he wouldn't talk because he's a Hinagami, so why would he, right? And we did, however, get an idea on our own, and that was Yufutami being a potential candidate. Yufutami did apparently even get approached for an arranged marriage. However, she didn't know even at the time who it was for. But smart as she is, she figured that the situation was very similar to Meguri's, and as such, she almost assumed that she was going to be the next candidate. However, no one else knows that yet, not except for Shizuru and Hideomi. So for now, at least, we can safely assume that she's not in too much danger, unless, the truth comes to light. And yeah, so what else? Yeah, we also, while while Mariko, who destroyed evidence, was being questioned at the police station, we did have a quick look into the Hinagami shrine and got a sample of the real Lord Hina. And we now send that sample together with Ayato back to Tokyo. And Reiji shortly after followed as well. He traveled back with Nanako. And there were a couple more things afterwards. The interesting one was, there was, I guess, the revelation later on when we looked more into the Blessed Congregation, who we still haven't connected 100% yet to the murders, but we feel like there's probably some kind of interesting thing going on with them. And but before that, we had like a little bit of a get-together for New Year's. All the girls were there again, of course, and later on, Toji stopped by as well, but only at the first of the new year. And what else? I mean, there was another big development, I suppose. But let's first of all go back to the actual current series of murders. So yeah, we gave Ayato the task to look into the Blessed Congregation, and he went to one of their shrines in Inokashira Park, which is where he met Naori, surprisingly. And it just so turns out that Naori apparently lives together with Nanako in Tokyo, and they even have an adopted child together. And Naori himself is doing work for the Blessed Congregation as their doctor. And we had like a brief meeting at the shrine, and then later on, Ayato was invited to the actual facility of the Blessed Congregation again. And he had like a little bit of a talk with him, and from what we could gather at least, it does not particularly seem like he is too into the idea of their religion, so he's not a devout follower, he just works there, as a doctor. And he's been pretty open to Ayato with regards to everything that's going on, and now Reiji also knows what we had already seen in the cutscene earlier, that the Blessed Congregation is currently looking for an Oracle of Revelations, like they used to have in Senri. And we still don't know who that is, but we can say for certain now that, Reiji is informed of the fact. And, I guess. Oh, yeah, the big other development was Shin Katsuragi made another appearance. Well, not physically, of course, but he said he sent the manuscript for his new book to a publisher. And the book released, and that happened while Reiji was in Toyama, in Hitogata. And Yukari discovered it, and she basically brought it over to Toji, I guess she brought it to Moonworld first, to Kyoko, but Toji was there, just happened to be there, and they discussed how they would inform Reiji about it without him, going nuts and dropping the whole case and stuff. And so Toji basically welcomed Reiji back at the station and then pushed him against the wall, Kabedon style, and told him to keep calm and all that kind of shit. And he did, actually, although we got to make the decision ourselves whether we want to follow up on the case or we want to go after Toko right away. But I decided to get behind the murders for now, because it just seems to make more sense. We don't even know if Toko is still alive at this point, so yeah, that's it. And yeah, that's the other big thing. And now, the only thing really left to address, I suppose, is the fact that Yukiko had some kind of weird dream, right? So remember that she was changed schools at the beginning of the game because there was this rumor that she killed her friend, even though she claims it wasn't true. However, all of a sudden, she gets this dream where she pushes another girl that also looks like her off an overpass in front of a train, and she seems to think that it could be a distorted memory from the past. So I don't know. We don't really have a clue what exactly happened there with Yukiko, but I'm sure we're gonna find out soonish. Okay. Long introduction. Let's get to it, I suppose. Let's have to turn on the sound. I'm a little bit later today than usual because I was testing something with my Famicom. You know, my brother repaired that for me a while ago, and now it's he wanted to see if the picture is better on my TV compared to his, which is much bigger, you know. So of course it would look distorted on that one. But yeah, so it looks okay. Maybe I'll show you at some point, but I don't know if that's the game that I have is a good one to stream. It's Takeshi's Challenge, which is a notoriously bad game, but it's also of course naturally in Japanese. So it would potentially be an opportunity to study Japanese and stream, but I don't know if I'm going to do that, to be honest, if that interests anybody at all. But yeah, be that as it may, that was just tangent. Okay, so they decided to visit Natsume, who said she had something for them. Let's see what it is. By the way, she also wanted to do Tokisaka again, so yeah. Well, we're prepared for anything that may potentially happen. Okay. Yeah, so I think we're ready, yeah. So we're back here again, huh? Yeah, okay, I remember that correctly. Masaki sighed when we arrived at the front door of the Takashiro clinic. His reaction was only to be expected. Anyone would be on guard if their previous visit involved an impromptu art exhibit of corpse photos. Relax, I doubt this'll turn into a repeat of last time. I hadn't heard of any new victims popping up in Tokyo after all. Then again, she could have been handling a corpse that had nothing to do with our case. Can't say that for sure. That lady performs autopsies here, right? If we're not careful, we might see a body with its guts on display in there. Stop, you're gonna make yourself puke. I patted Masaki on the back and entered the clinic. Only to find a corpse with its guts on display atop the dissection table. There you are. Talkie soccer. I guess that's how you have to pronounce it, right? That's it. I saw that table was for dissecting bodies, not your lunch. But it's yummy and only just sawed. Natsume was stuffing her face with some bonito sashimi. The fact that she had it skewered on a scalpel sent shivers down my spine. Nana sent this to me. Apparently she caught it while fishing in Kochi. Sounded like total bullshit. Though I couldn't prove it, of course. So what did you want exactly? I mean, I wouldn't be so surprised. Nana is a very eccentric, I guess, for a lack of a better description. I wasn't going to pass on the free meal if she called us to share the food. Well, part of it was because I didn't think I could finish all this on my own, but there's more to it than just that, big boy. Natsume sidled up to me. I'm not following. Oh, come on, who do you think you're fooling? What better way to kick off the new year than with a bang, you follow? Yep, I totally saw this coming. I think I'd better excuse myself. Come on, don't be shy, the more the merrier. Lady! I think I'll pass. Hey, don't take it seriously. I managed to pry Natsume off me before this ticking time bomb had time to blow. Quite literally blow, huh? Ah, you're such a tease. Okay, that's enough of that. What do you really want? Hold your horses. Why not have some sashimi first? Now that was a proposition I could get behind. Natsumi cut up the bonito and garnished it with ginger root and soy sauce. Well, that's actually pretty good. No, right? Freshly caught fish is the best. Personally, I didn't consider freshly sawed the same as freshly caught, but it was so damn good I ultimately decided not to split hairs. Makes me wish we had some rice to go with this. Whoops, should have saw that. Hey Masaki, go borrow some from the neighbors. Very funny. Anyway, I saw you wanted us here for a reason. Sure, I guess we can talk about it over lunch. The Toyama Prefectural Police called, said they did some digging, literally, and found a pair of arms and legs. I glanced at Masaki out of the corner of my eye. Okay, so now we have your proof that you really did bury them. But what comes next? Do they believe they can ID them? Can't say for sure, since I didn't see them for myself, but I hear they were found preserved so good you never would have guessed they were so old. Sure sounds like they'll be able to get fingerprints then. Nah, they may be preserved good, but that don't mean they still have fingerprints. The boys up there might be able to get an ID through blood type though. Natsumi caught her bonito's skin with the scalpel as she explained the situation to us. See how this here fish's skin is still good even though the scales have been flayed? Might work something like that. Well, you heard the lady. I turned the conversation back over to Masaki. Those are Satsuki's limbs, I'm sure of it. You said that your mother's limbs were also preserved though, right? Natsumi, did they manage to date the limbs? Well, I don't know how accurate this is, but the report said they belonged to a young dame who died sometime between 10 and 20 years ago. That's a pretty big window. I heard that my mother died not too long after I was born, which was around 30 years ago, so it couldn't be her. Is it possible for you to look into that from your end, Natsumi? Probably not, unless they send them over. This ain't the same as that dirt from a few days back. Hold on, if they plan to check her blood type, could they cross-reference it with the Shigusa's and Hinagami's blood types to confirm whether she was related to them? Sadly, medical science ain't cracked that code yet. Super convenient as it be, most we can do right now is to combine the two individuals' ABO blood group and genotypes to confirm they ain't parent and child. Not parent and child? Hold on, does that mean it isn't possible to confirm they are parent and child? Bingo, here's an example for you. If both parents are O-type, then their kid will definitely be O-type as well. But if the kid's A-type, then that means either the mother or father ain't the real deal. Biologically, anyway. However, even if the kid is type O, that don't necessarily mean he or she was the result of him doing the horizontal tango, you get me? The horizontal tango. I guess. He said that, yeah, he really didn't sound all that sure of himself. I'd put money on him, if not following personally. Toyama police would be the ones investigating all relevant parties, blood types, so I can't help you on that front. You'd have a better look asking Yaginumi to lend you a hand. You're the one who wants to know, so why don't you ask him? Huh? Are you talking to me? Who else would he be talking to? Yeah, I'd rather not, since he's just going to be an ass about it if I'm involved. It isn't like he treats me any different. Hey, this was your idea. I suppose if you say so, Miss Takashiro. Masaki's shoulder slumped in resignation. Come on, don't be a stranger. Call me Natsume. Natsume. As you wish, Natsume.
わかりました、夏目さん。
If a sound could ever encompass the sentiment of I hate my life, it would be Masaki's sigh at that moment. The sun had started to set over Yodobashi by the time we returned to my office in Shinjuku from Takadanobaba via the Yamate line. I have a bad feeling about this. I shook my head after looking up at my office window. About what? Nothing. Go on, you first. Sure. Though confused and not placated, Masaki did as I asked and entered the building. Little did he know that I'd momentarily seen a figure in my window, and it was probably him. He does remember government offices are closed for the holidays right now, doesn't he? Someone must really love his job. Shortly thereafter, I entered the office, finding one superintendent workhorse seated on the sofa, just as expected. And just where in the world have you two been? Building an igloo together, perhaps? Masaki was rooted in place, completely at the mercy of Yaginuma's snide remarks. Maybe I should have killed some more time before stepping inside. Is that really what an uninvited guest says to his host? Not our fault you didn't tell us you were coming. I reluctantly threw Masaki a lifeline. I was expecting you to be here, not out hibernating your New Year's away. I'm not. That's exactly why I wasn't here. I care not. It still has no bearing on the fact that I took the time out of my vacation to pay you a visit. Yaginuma whipped an envelope out of his pocket and threw it on the table. What's this? The results of the analysis on the soil samples you acquired in Toyama, as well as the clay dolls found at the crime scenes. Wow, you people sure work fast. I forced forensics to relinquish their New Year's vacations for this. That's why. A show of gratitude would be much appreciated. You mean thank you and not the people who actually did the work? Yeah, I'll pass. I grabbed the envelope and retrieved the report awaiting within. Mayu Kamizono, Mizuki Itose, and Meguri Takamiya's clay dolls all used dirt, made from volcanic ash, containing large amounts of aluminum. They were from Kanto's loamy layer, and it was highly likely that all of them came from the same place. I guess this scientifically proves that the Tokyo murders were all committed by the same person. That or a single group. We do not know for sure which as of yet. At any rate, the next report is the analysis of the soil from Toyama. In other words, the dirt left at the scene of Yuka Kirimura's murder. It was also from Kanto's loamy layer, its composition identical to the other three samples. So this must mean the murders in Tokyo and Hitogata share the same culprit, right? As I stated previously, this does not serve as a means to identify the culprit themselves. All this proves is that the clay the dolls were created through the same process. I guess the biggest takeaway is that the dirt's from Kanto, that is to say Tokyo. With that out of the way, I showed another report to Masaki. Is this the soil you took from Lord Hina? Indeed, the one enshrined at the Hinagami estate. According to the report, it was believed to be glycol, the kind found frequently in Hokuriku, composed primarily of manganese and iron. It also contained calcium phosphate, leading the investigators to believe it had been taken from a place that had traditionally served as a burial site. How can they tell that it's from a burial site? Because calcium phosphate is the main component of bones. Come to think of it, this reminds me of a story I once heard that claimed Lord Hina was made from graveyard soil. Sound like the legend's true then? That said, none of this had anything to do with the case. The actual problem was all four victims, including Yuka Kirimura, were killed by the same culprit, meaning this likely isn't the work of the traditional curse of Lord Hina. I would have liked to investigate the clay dolls found in murders such as Keiko Zaizen's and Sachiko Kawase's if possible, but it was probably far too late for that. That isn't the only issue at hand. Yaginuma chimed in. The culprit brought the clay doll for Yuka Kirimura's murder to Hitogata all the way from Tokyo. Ergo, her murder was premeditated from the very start. Huh. He was right. Yuka Kirimura clearly hadn't been killed on a whim, that much was for sure. However, the why of her murder eluded me, seeing as how she hadn't been one of Ayato Hinagami's bridal candidates. Masaki, Karen Hinagami, Nanako Sawashiro and I were all visiting from Tokyo when Yuka Kirimura was murdered. Taking Masaki and myself off the suspect list narrowed our options down to 2, most of which were plausible. After all, the victims were female, so it wouldn't have been strange if even a fellow woman of little strength had killed them. It wouldn't have required that much elbow grease to put the bodies on show either. All they'd have to do was lift them and suspend them. That said, I knew it was far too early to be jumping to conclusions. Hey Yaginuma, would it be possible for you to get in contact with Hinagami Pharmaceuticals? Why me? Do we not have their very sign right here? Yaginuma gestured at Masaki to punctuate his point. Perfectly reasonable question, really. We cannot afford to take action out in the open, not when we do not possess anything that casts suspicion upon the company as of yet. Yet? So you are looking into something at the moment then? I'm under no obligation to answer that question. Oh, shut up. Friggin' Yaginuma. If this is about Mizuki Ito's father working for Hinagami Pharmaceuticals, then we already know. You certainly work fast. Yaginuma looked irritated at being outfoxed for once. I thought you didn't have a problem with her talking openly about anything that tied back to this case. You're welcome to investigate it if you wish, just please do take care not to get in my way. Can't guarantee that when we don't even know what you're looking into, so no promises. I'll have you arrested for obstruction of justice should you interfere. Man, this guy, huh? Yaginuma got to his feet. Wait, hold up. Can I ask you a favor Can I ask you for a favor before I go? What, pray tell, will that be? Could you look into the blood types of all the members of Hinagami and Shigusa families? That's not my job. Please go and ask for that information yourselves. You sure the police don't need to get involved with this? It would be pointless seeing as how that does not fall under our jurisdiction. Fine, just don't come complaining to us later. Whatever, guess we'll look into that on our own. I wondered if I could ask Yuzuru Kuroya or someone to pass me the information on the sly. Now then, if you'll excuse me. Hold up, one more thing. What is it now? Do you not have a New Year's gift for us? Only a serving of lead, if that is what you wish for. Wow, rude. Okay, after Yaginuma left, Masaki and Reiji had a light dinner, concluding with the latter setting the phone before the former. Now, call. Call where? Where else? Hinagami Pharmaceuticals. I want to set up a meeting with Shizuru Hinagami. That's all, can't you just do it yourself? Do you seriously think they'd agree to a meeting with a private eye just because he asked nicely? No way, they're so soft. Point taken, I would have taken over the company in a heartbeat if they were that relaxed. Masaki heaved a sigh. To say he was reluctant was an understatement. After all, he hadn't spoken to his father in over a decade. The man hadn't been home during Masaki's brief return to Hitogata after the war. Furthermore, he was strict, though not so much as Hideyomi, to the point Masaki had found the very prospect of speaking to him a terrifying one back in the day. What do I even say to him after so long? Don't worry about a thing right now. Just tell him what you need. You can catch up at the meeting itself, after all. Alright. Masaki nodded and picked up the phone. He then dialed the number on the paper Reiji had handed him. The phone kept ringing and ringing. Reiji opened his mouth to say something, but Masaki stopped him and checked the calendar on the wall. It was Friday, January 3rd. Guess they must still be out for the holidays. Knew it. And why even bother having me call? Masaki grumbled as he hung up. Should I try again tomorrow? If we do that, we won't even get to meet until next week, right? No, I'd rather ask my questions as soon as possible. Tomorrow, hopefully. I'll try Karen's number then. Masaki got up and went over to his bag in the corner of the office. Wait, if you had her number, why didn't you just call her first? Because a certain someone ordered me to call Hinagami Pharmaceuticals, that's why. Masaki snapped back and retrieved a scrap with Karen's home number on it. Can't guarantee she'll answer though. He returned to the phone, dialed the number. Well, and heard someone pick up on the other end shortly thereafter. Hello? That you, Karen? It's me. He refused to mention his birth name even when speaking to his own sister. Ayato? Something wrong? I want to meet with Dad. Can you make that happen? Huh? Well, sure, of course, but why? Did that detective put you up to this? Ooh, she catches on quick, huh? Masaki looked up at Reiji. That's part of it, yeah, but I also haven't spoken to Dad in so long that there's a ton I'd like to get off my chest. So you finally decided to take over Hinagami Pharmaceuticals then? No, I haven't considered that yet. I just want to talk to Dad, that's all. I see. Father, I mean, President Hinagami will be at the office tomorrow morning. Can you make it? That's in Yotsuya, right? Sure, that works. Oh, and one more thing. The detective will be tagging along, I take it. I'll be sure to let him know. Yeah, thanks. Masaki hung up. She said we can meet him tomorrow morning. Oh, and she gave you permission to join me. I would assume as much. What point would there even be in going without me? True, I can't really imagine myself holding a conversation with Dad. Anyway, tomorrow morning, right? I'll come pick you up around 9, so be ready by then. Reiji got up. Don't exactly have much to prepare, though. All he had to do was look respectable. Dumbass, I'm telling you to make sure you've got the guts to face your old man after so long. Reiji showed himself out, leaving Masaki to stew over those words. Guts, huh? Reiji was right, he still didn't have that. But at the very least, it had to be far easier than stealing himself to return to Hitogata just 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I reckon. But still, you know. Especially after he got, like, detected in less than a couple of hours, I suppose. Yeah, but anyways. I put on something comfortable and slipped under the covers once I got home. There I stared at the ceiling and as I mulled over my thoughts. Tomorrow I'd be paying a visit to Hinagami Pharmaceuticals, the same company Yaginuma was looking into. While I didn't know what he was investigating, I had to ensure I didn't get in his way. Though honestly, it was only inevitable that our paths would converge as they had now. However, Yaginuma had learned that Mizuki Ito's father was a former employee of Hinagami Pharmaceuticals. He was probably looking into them and their connection to the Blessed Congregation. Neither of them seemed to be linked on the surface, Dad said. But while it was hard to imagine that a pharmaceutical company and a religious organization could have anything in common, it was a different story with the Shigusas thrown into the mix. A Shigusa had started up the Blessed Congregation's predecessor, while his relatives, the Hinagamis, ran a Hinagami Pharmaceuticals. Thus, there was always the chance that they had some sort of arrangement. After all, even Naori Kuroya, another one of the Hinagami's relatives, was working for the Blessed Congregation. Come to think of it, the Kuroyas had mentioned that Naori's first job involved working at the Hinagami Pharmaceuticals labs. Oh yeah, they did say that. I wonder what exactly convinced him to fully move over to the Blessed Congregation. Yeah, maybe it was some kind of, I guess, arrangement after all, as he said. But we will see, I suppose. And that he then moved over to some orphanage whose name escaped me at the moment. White Lily Garden or something like that, I think it was called. If that orphanage was affiliated with the Blessed Congregation, then all roads led back to Hinagami Pharmaceuticals. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Although I'm not sure if we actually heard that name as Reiji. No, we must have heard that while he talked to Yuzuru, I think. Oh well. I got up with a grunt. It had just hit me that I'd forgotten to do something. While I'd planned on giving the job to Masaki, I could probably do it myself now that I no longer had to go through Yaginuma. Yukari was listening to the radio in the living room. Yukari, I need to use the phone. Alright, I understand. Yukari turned down the radio. Pretty sure I looked up their number at some point. I flipped through my notebook until I found the Kuroya Clinic's number. I'm not calling too late, am I? Nah, I should still be fine. Probably. I picked up the receiver and dialed the number after dismissing that concern. Hello, you've reached the Kuroya Clinic. My apologies for calling so late. This is Detective Tokisaka, the one who was there visiting until just a few days ago. Is that you, Yuzuru? Oh yes, how can I help you? I have a favor to ask. I need to know the blood types of everyone in the Shigusa and Hinagami families. And why, may I ask? I could hear the vigilance rising in Yuzuru's voice, even over the phone. I'm looking into a Jane Doe who could be related to either family. You mean those arms and legs found in the mountains? Damn, he's catches on quick, huh? So you've heard, huh? No point in beating around the bush, then. I performed the initial examination at our clinic. As a matter of fact, that said, the forensics officer from the police was in charge, so I never even saw the limbs. I see. Seeing as the investigation task squad in Tokyo is apparently interested in them, so the superintendent said that he wanted to compare the blood types of all potentially related parties. I bluffed using the police's name as a shield, even though I knew Yaginuma would have my ass if he ever found out. Understood, you just need the Shigusas and Hinagamis, right? Ultimately though, Yuzuru ended up giving in almost disappointingly easily. Thank you very much. I'd also appreciate it if you could get me the information on the deceased family members while you're at it. We keep medical records, so that shouldn't be an issue, so as long as they aren't too old. Should I send them over to the MPD? No, I'd prefer you send them over to me instead. Wouldn't that be suspicious? You know, that he wasn't, the police wasn't actually the party that requested these documents and information. I gave him my home address. Forget my ass. Yaginuma would have had my head if those records ended up falling into his hands instead. Understood. Could take a very long time for these to get to you by mail at this time of year, so I'll send you a telegram instead. You should have them by Monday. Thank you very much. Can't even begin to tell you how much of a help this is. Oh, one more thing. I'd almost forgotten my other order of business with him. There's more? It's about your son. You said he once worked at the Hinagami Pharmaceuticals lab, right? Would you happen to know what they were researching? As I've already told you, I'm not sure. Is that true, or is he just playing dumb? Understood. Oh wait, you told me you worked at an orphanage after that, right? Do you know its name and where it was located? Just the former, it was called the White Lily Garden. Yeah, okay, I remember that correctly at least. I see. Thanks again. Have a nice day. Phew. Things were finally picking up steam. Would you like some tea? Yeah, that's sounding pretty good right about now. Here you go, then. Yukari promptly served me tea so hot that she must have made it just before she'd asked. Thanks. I blew in the tea as I slowly sipped it. Wait, you start school again on Monday, right? Correct. Speaking of which, Kohane will probably come over begging to copy my homework in a day or two. She does realize she's supposed to do her own homework, right? I know I never copied anyone's. You're not saying you just didn't hand in anything at all, are you? Whoops, just remembered I've still got some work to do, so I'm gonna head back to my room now. Got up without answering Yukari's question. Just to be clear, she hadn't hit the nail on the head. No, absolutely not. I slipped back into my futon after returning to my room. I'd done just about all I could for the time being. Everything else depended on my meeting with Shizuru Hinagami tomorrow. After that, I'd pay Kuchiki Hospital a visit. According to Fumiya, they'd had ties with Hinagami Pharmaceuticals since their grandfather's time. Hell, I'd even seen Karen Hinagami there a few weeks back. So hopefully I could get some information regarding the company's reputation from them. That said, the Kuchikis were family to the Hinagamis, so I would probably be best off questioning only Koharu. Then again, I doubted the company would have let any scandals reach their business partners' ears. Okay, now that my plans for tomorrow are all set in stone, I'd better go straight to bed. Got an early morning tomorrow after all. Just hope it doesn't snow. Okay. Let's see what Shizuru looks like now, these days. The rattle of an air-cooled engine resounded across the snow-sprinkled road. But driving? Masaki's face went as pale as his breast once he exited the agency and saw my car out front. Yeah, Yotsuya is not too far from here, and besides, a little snow won't kill us. Probably. Could we walk instead? Hell no. I shoved Masaki into the passenger seat. This car's got a rear engine, so it won't slip so easily on snowy roads. There's a world of difference between that and not slipping, period. Relax, will you? I didn't get into an accident on the trip over, did I? That's precisely the sort of overconfidence that gets drivers an early grave. I ignored Masaki's caterwauling, hopped into the driver's seat, and took off. Oh, okay. This is the building looks like, huh? Yeah, it's very modern, I suppose. We arrived at the Hinagami Pharmaceuticals Tokyo headquarters in no time flat. See, it was smooth sailing. For the last time, please stop trying to act like nothing happened. Hey, come on, I didn't hit anything. That's a win in my book. Most people would call slipping and spinning on streetcar tracks an accident. Okay, that one did startle me, I'll admit. Speaking of startling, I just accidentally, with my elbow, turned up my volume, like, all the way to the top, accidentally. But, fortunately for you, you didn't hear that. It was just on my end. Okay, that one did startle me, I'll admit. It could have been a hell of a lot uglier if not for my Monaco Grand Prix class steering. No, you were only lucky that everyone in the vicinity ran for their lives. Come on, quit sweating the small stuff. You needed the distraction anyway, right? I wouldn't exactly say being afraid of losing my life was much better. We bantered in front of the entrance until the doors opened, revealing Karen Hinagami. Almost asked that you refrain from idle chit-chat on our company's doorstep. Oh, good morning, Karen. Morning to you, Ayato. And to you as well, Mr. Tokisaka. Was it? Yes, that's correct. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to arrange this. You're welcome, however, I ask that you please move your car to the rear parking lot first. Oh, sure. I had no choice but to agree, not when she was clearly all business anyway. Please, wait right here. Karen escorted us to the reception room before leaving us be. Snazzy building, isn't it? Yes, well, I suppose they do make good money. Hey, it's not too late to take up your family's offer, you know. You could probably live like a king if you took over this company. I will never work. I don't know a thing about pharmaceuticals. And start learning. It would make you a better assistant anyway. It's not a particularly enticing proposition. Yeah, I guess I should have known that would be a long shot. Suddenly Karen returned. I'll see you now. I rose to my feet once I saw the man entering behind Karen. Hinagami Shizuru, I presume? Indeed. Oh, well, it doesn't look that much different, except, you know, actually he has a suit on this time. He glanced at Masaki before taking a seat on the opposite sofa. Please make this quick if you would. My time is limited. Shizuru shot Karen a look, prompting her to bow and leave the room. You're not going to say anything to, you know, him? As her surreptitiously indicated Masaki was keeping his head down, the stone-faced Chizuru. I already knew he was alive. I'm not saying I was expecting a tear-jerking reunion or anything, but shouldn't you be doing it, I don't know, something at least? I didn't want to strike a bad first impression with him, but I just had to get that off my chest. No, I wasn't home terribly much after all. Only because you put work over family. Masaki finally spoke up. You have it all wrong, Ayato. Shizuru focused on his son for the first time since this had begun. The Hinagamis must place family above all else, and while its scale may have increased, this company has always been our family business. Hence there is no contradiction. I guess that's one way of justifying your behavior, I suppose. Is that why you tried to make me take over the second you found me? So in other words, the reins they really wanted to hand him were those of the Hinagami family itself, not Hinagami Pharmaceuticals. Ayato and Karen were Shizuru's only children, meaning his candidates were quite limited. Still, I didn't see why Karen couldn't simply take over so as long as she found a man willing to marry into the family. I hear that Karen isn't fertile. That's why you need me, isn't it? There went that question. Was it that important to them that their patriarch's bloodline persisted? In that case, Naori Kuroya, Shizuru's own nephew, should have worked just as well, though then again it was probably impossible to bring the son of someone who'd married into another family back into their fold. It's my parents who are trying to get you married. Apparently the elderly are desperate not to have the Hinagami bloodline die out. Grandfather told me he'd left all that in your hands, though. All I've done is select candidates. It was my father who first suggested the idea. Hideyomi did say you were the one who'd picked the candidates, that you and he were the only ones who knew them. I chimed in once the subject of the candidates came up. So then, you must know that someone's been pruning the list, correct? Yes. Shizuru's face darkened for a moment. You have any inkling as to why? No, we hadn't even officially reached out to one of them yet. Oh, which one was that? Kanae Ito's daughter, Mizuki, I believe was her name. We hadn't gotten in touch with her. I can only imagine that the candidate's identity must have found their way to the culprit then. Indeed. Shizuru nodded. Do you have any ideas as to how they were leaked? Like, say, maybe someone wiretapped the phone conversation between you and your father? Travel to Hitogata and talk to him in person whenever we need to discuss it. Plus, it's only after we work out our candidate and plan a plan that I start informing people. Was the first person you told Nanako Sawashiro? Yes, she was the one who found him after all. Shizuru glanced at Masaki. Was it just a coincidence that Mayu Kamizuno happened to be working at the hospital he'd frequented? It was, though it was her accessibility that led us to choose her as the primary candidate naturally. Masaki clenched his hands into fists. This sure as hell can't be easy on him. Would you like to wait outside? No, I'm fine. He shook his head despite the downcast look on his face. I heard that Yuka Kirimura was not one of the candidates, yet she was murdered just like them. Can you think of why? Wish I could. She was good to our family. Shizuru frowned sadly, his face mirroring his son's. It seemed he really didn't have any clue. Though it could have just been an act, of course. How come she wasn't one of the candidates, though? I mean, she's about your son's age and all. Shizuru held his tongue, not daring to utter another word. It sounded like there really was a clear set of criteria for being a candidate, just as it suspected, one that he felt had to be kept secret. However, that only made it curiouser and curious as to why Yuka Kirimura had been murdered. Maybe the culprit hadn't known the secret criteria and thus killed her without realizing she didn't fit them. But if that were the case, then why had he even assumed Yuka Kirimura was one of the candidates to begin with? Hitogata was a small place, yet it was home to two of the candidates, Meguri Takamiya and Yu Futami. So maybe the murderer simply assumed women in that age group were candidates and killed them? I wanted to question Shizuru on the subject further, but unfortunately I wasn't with the police or anything. Plus, I couldn't risk him calling off the whole meeting because I was riding his ass. I have no intention of getting married. Masaki, probably unable to bear his silence any longer, finally spoke up. Tell that to your grandfather, not me. You've seen how he is. How could I possibly say that to a man on death's door? And just be patient, even he knows he doesn't have much time left. Oh, so he's cool with just forgetting about everything? Not giving him medicine or anything. We're doing all we can. Unfortunately, no drug treatment out there can completely eliminate a malignant tumor once it's metastasized throughout the body. Terminal cancer, huh? Pretty advanced too, from the sounds of it. So what do you plan to do about the whole marriage arrangement now that things have come to this? Realistically, cancelling it is about the only choice we have. Not much we can do with the candidates getting murdered one after the other. Shizuru readily admitted defeat, which was in stark contrast to what he'd told his son. However, we couldn't afford to let our guards down. Sure, Shizuru had stopped, but that didn't mean the killer would. Are there any other candidates aside from Yu Futami? I suppose I can admit that there is one other. Shizuru answered reluctantly before producing a piece of paper. Ah, okay. Sorry, I know my handwriting is the worst. Always has been. He had me off before I could comment on that exact point. The first two names were probably you and Meguri. Who's Tsubaki Kamizono? Mayu Kamizono's mother. I only knew the names of the other candidates' mothers. Okay. Wait, you knew them? but not the candidates themselves? I suppose so, yes. It said earlier that Kanae Itose was Mizuki Itose's mother. And that applies to this last one too, I take it. I pointed to the name that read Midori Yoshino. Yes, that's her mother's name. Despite using every tool at my disposal, I still haven't found her daughter. And you're sure she actually has one? Yes, that's what I've heard. Knowing the mother's names, but not the actual candidates? How is that possible? Whatever the reason, it sounded like a clue about the criteria for selecting candidates. I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that, you know, we've heard that he's been quite the playboy, Shizuru, back in the days. And, you know, maybe he knows the mothers from that, for that reason or something. Have you shown this paper to anyone else? You're the first. No way, actually, I showed it to my father. Does he trust me? Or is he just that confident that no one ever will find the last candidate? Would you mind if I borrow this paper? Not at all. Just please take care not to say a word of it to anyone. Likewise, if these names get leaked, the last one will be in grave danger. Though unfortunately the culprit likely already knew it. Is that everything? Shizuru checked the clock. I suppose so. We can leave it at that for today if you're willing to meet us again at a later date. I'll consider it. Shizuru stood up. Ayato. Huh? Yes? Masaki's head shot up at the unexpected mention of his name. What do you say we have a meal together? It's been so long. What? Masaki looked at me. Why not? I'm sure you two have a lot of catching up to do. I got up and gave Masaki a tap on the shoulder. I'll be going then. I'd appreciate any help you could give me if something else arises. I bowed to Shizuru before leaving him and Masaki behind. I mean, he seems like a fairly reasonable guy, right? So, maybe it's not all terrible in that family. But yeah, they do certainly have some weird traditions, that's for sure. I drove to Nakano after departing Hinagami Pharmaceuticals. The snow on the roads had mostly melted by then, meaning I didn't skid on them. Though I did run into a bit of trouble under those walkways in Shinjuku that didn't get sunlight. The hospital appeared to have reopened to outpatients today, but the place was practically deserted since it was a Saturday afternoon and all. Save a car in the parking lot, parked in the farthest space away from the entrance, that is. It was a Nissan Austin that I'd never seen in the area. Someone was in the driver's seat, so I casually approached it, took a peek inside, and spotted two sketchy-looking men. They wore black business suits, but neither appeared comfortable in them. Everything about them, down to their car, seemed borrowed hoodlums, if I had to say. Suddenly the car took off as if they'd noticed me. What was all that about? So I should notify the hospital. The lobby was devoid of patients. Around New Year's, rice cakes sat atop the reception desk, though lacking the standard accompanying orange. For a moment I wondered if said orange had fallen off and rolled away somewhere. Hey, snap out of it. You're here to talk to Koharu, not critique the decor. I hadn't called ahead or anything, so the plan was to stop by her office and see if she was in. How much you want to bet she's gonna meet Michiru again? I just prayed I didn't barge in on her getting dressed or some other such cliche. Something the matter, Mr. Tokisaka? However, she ultimately turned out to simply be sitting behind her desk. Just to be clear, I most certainly hadn't gotten my hopes up. No way, not a chance. Happy New Year, Dr. Yamanouchi. Could I borrow a few minutes of your time? Where did that even come from, anyways? I stopped in my tracks after almost bumping into Michiru as I rounded the corner. Actually, this is a perfect timing. Do you know where Dr. Yamanouchi is?
こっちこの窓
This way, through the window. I stood on my tiptoes and looked through the window, wondering why in the world this had merited a trip outside. Then quickly realized I was staring right into the nurse's locker room. What the fuck? Held in a shout and hightailed it out of there before anyone saw me. Hey, what's the big idea? Certainly, but what is it about? You know about Hinagami Pharmaceuticals, right? I was wondering if you could tell me about the business they do with this hospital. Hinagami Pharmaceuticals? Well, yes, our hospital has been partnered with them for quite some time. But wouldn't you be better off asking the director Kuchiki instead? Well, it turns out he's actually related to their owner, so I was hoping to get a less biased perspective, if you catch my drift. Oh, I'm alright, if you say so. Hinagami Pharmaceuticals provides my department with cold medicine and the like for patients. Koharu retrieved a medicine bottle from my cupboard. The label proudly read Hinagami Pharmaceuticals. But this isn't a new medication or anything. Other companies produce similar drugs as well. Then would you say Hinagami Pharmaceuticals supplies this hospital due to your long-standing partnership? Suppose so. Apparently they have also developed many new psychotropics in recent years, but that isn't my field of expertise, so I can't speak to their quality. Psychotropics, huh? I could refer you to a specialist if you'd like. Nah, that won't be necessary, thank you. I immediately refused, sensing her reluctance. The specialist she had in mind was likely our mutual acquaintance behind bars. I'd rather just ask you, if that's alright. I know you told me you don't know much, but even a little information can go a long way, so anyway. They've been releasing a lot of psychotropics recently, huh? Yes, but that being said, it's common for development of new medication to take over a decade, so the definition of recent is broad, just so you're aware. So in other words, even a newly released drug could have been in research and development before the war began. Well then, could you tell me about Hinagami Pharmaceuticals' reputation instead? Their reputation? Koharu stroked her chin in contemplation. I haven't really heard anything, though maybe that's just because we don't have much reason to interact. I say. No interactions likely meant nothing in entering the rumor mill. Much as I hate to admit it, it's sounding more and more like my only option here is our friend in Yaginuma's cell. Getting him to talk is a major pain in the ass. It probably won't tell me anything unless I've figured most of it out already. Will that be all? Oh yes, my apologies for taking up your time. No wait, actually, hold up a second. I remembered something just as I rose to leave. I saw some shady punks in the parking lot before I got here, so please be careful. There's no telling what they're up to. Koharu cocked her head. Were they not simply patients? I sure hope that's all. It wasn't out of the question, of course. But the way they'd appeared to be scoping out the hospital didn't strike me as ordinary patient behavior. I'll notify the director, just to be safe then. Thank you, I'd appreciate that. Yeah, after they already had kidnapping cases and all sorts of nonsense at this hospital, they want to be extra careful probably, I would assume. Alright, I left the office only to just as quickly notice an orange rolling down the hallway. Mind telling me what the heck you're doing? Michiru, the culprit who'd rolled the orange like a bowling ball, was crouched down at the other end. Trying to trip you. Isn't that what banana peels are for? Bananas are too expensive. True, I guess tariffs or whatnot are a lot higher than before the war. Though I highly doubted she cared. Hell, I was boring myself with that tidbit. Michiru picked up the orange, took a seat on a bench, started peeling it. Here you go. And offered me the rind. Could I trip someone with this? Nah, the juices are drained and the rind's starting to dry. Probably couldn't even trip a blind man. Just then a sneaking suspicion suddenly struck me. Hey, Michiru, where do you get this orange?
落ちてた。
It was lying over there. Michiru gestured to a spot on the floor. One that just so happened to be right next to the reception desk. It fell from that thing, didn't it? I pointed to the round New Year's rice cake decorating the desk. Yep. Michiru nodded and popped a slice of orange into her mouth. You're not supposed to eat that. Spitting it out is even worse. Ugh. Michiru simply sat back and moaned, taking no steps to remedy the situation. What the heck? In for a penny, in for a pound, I guess. Staff would probably have taken that down by Monday anyway. Michiru got up with the orange in hand and marched over to the desk. Confused, I watched closely and saw her set a single slice of orange back atop the rice cake before returning to her seat. Pretty sure that's just as bad.
ダメ？
No good? Not at all.
そう。
Oh. Michiru returned to the rice cake, grabbed the orange slice, and started heading back, only to drop it on the floor.
あ、
Oops. After freezing for a beat, she picked up the slice and sauntered up to me before placing it in my hand.
あげる。
For you. Gee, thanks, Michiru. You think I'm blind?
床に
Not
落ち
eating
た
food
時
just because
食
it
べ
fell
ない
on the floor
飽食
is
の
the epitome of gluttony.
もったい
Be a
ない
waste. How could an explanation sound so right yet so wrong at the same time? Well, whatever. They likely keep the floors clean, so that I'll be keeling over from some infection in a few days or so. I chucked the slice into my mouth, not even bothering to remove the piss. It was still fairly sweet.
あげる。
For you. Michiru shoved the rest of the orange in my hands. Seemed she hadn't even eaten most of it. In exchange, she took the orange rind I tossed aside.
これな
There.
ら
Now they'll never know what happened, right? And curled the rind into a ball until it was back in its original shape. You'd make an awful criminal. I shook my head and ate the orange. The shape is completely off, since there's nothing left inside. Though you do get points for cleanly peeling off the skin.
中身。
The inside. Michiru stared at the orange in my hand. Over half of it was already gone.
ねえ、キャロル。
Hey, Carol,
この
Pop's
お
a
じさん
glutton, isn't
食い
he?
しん坊ね。
Rude. Michiru talked to the stuffed rabbit sitting next to her. Oh, so this is my fault now?
中身がない。
There's nothing left inside, it's empty.
この目と
Just like this eye. Wow, that got dark all of a sudden. She pressed down on her bandaged eye socket. I thought about saying something, but ultimately had held my tongue.
おじさんも
Hey, Pops, are you empty too? I twitched. That had certainly come out of nowhere. Don't think so, not when I've got so much on my mind.
それは頭の中。
That's just your head. What about your heart?
心の中は
Michiru stared my way, almost like she was seeing right through me. Good question. To say my heart was empty would be going too far, I felt. However, it was indeed true that it had a hole there for nearly 2 years now. Maybe she'd picked up on that.
あ、小春ちゃん。
Oh, Koharu-chan. Oh, Ruru. Michiru shoved the orange right into my hand and got up.
時坂さん、まだいらしたんですか？
Oh, I didn't realize you were still here, Mr. Tokisaka. Something wrong, Miss Shirosaki?
おじさんがお飾り
This
に
guy ate the orange they were using as decoration. No, Damn it, she's not wrong. It still felt like I'd been hoodwinked, though.
みかんでしたらたくさんありますから。いくらでも
Well,
どう
we
ぞ
have plenty of orange, and so have as many as you'd like, I suppose. Sorry about that. All I could do was hang my head when faced with an exasperated Koharu. You know, you could have just told her, but I feel like that's not a very Japanese thing to do, you know. If they feel they have even some form of responsibility, they're not gonna blame someone else, even if like 95% of the blame here was on Michiru after all, right? Well, anyways, Masaki waited in Hinagami Pharmaceuticals' reception room until Shizuru returned with the delivery man carrying food in a wooden box. Karen won't be joining us. Apparently she had an errand to run. Shizuru sat across from Masaki. Then he took the food out from the box and set it on the table. The meal consisted of thick beef, white rice, miso soup, and pickled vegetables. Are you not a fan of beefsteak? Oh, I like it just fine. Masaki shook his head. He'd never seen meat so chunky before, so he was just worried if his stomach could take it. Masaki picked up a knife, secretly relieved that everything else was quite modest in comparison. Thank you for the meal. He began cutting up his beefsteak, figuring there was no need to hold back any longer. The knife sliced through it like butter, shockingly enough. There wasn't anything like sinew to get in the way, leaving him with bite-sized pieces in a flash. The mysterious animal meat he'd eaten during the war was mostly sinew and bone, so there hadn't been much to actually consume. Compared to that, this was heaven. Masaki set his knife down and ate with his chopsticks. The meat was so soft that he hardly even had to chew. This restaurant only uses the beef from cows raised by an affiliated farm. Shizuru explained the meal's origin, even though Masaki hadn't asked anything. They crossbreed those of the same bloodlines of numerous generations and keep only the best stock. I see. Masaki wasn't all that interested. Shizuru, perhaps picking up on that, spoke no further and let the meal proceed in silence. This would look absolutely bizarre to anyone who walked in right now. Father and son faced each other, neither saying a word. Perhaps things would have been different if Karen were present. But as it stood, this lunch meeting served no purpose whatsoever. After finishing his last radish, Masaki tried to leave. Ayato. However, Shizuru finally broke his silence, as if he'd been waiting for that precise moment. Yes? Masaki reluctantly sat back down. Want one? Shizuru offered him a cigarette just then. No, thank you, I don't smoke. That was a lie. And true as Masaki smoked once in the blue moon, but he didn't feel like taking one given by Shizuru. Same. Shizuru put the cigarette in his own mouth instead and lit it up. For a while, all that flowed in the room was smoke and time. Masaki simply sat there in absolute silence, having lost his chance to leave. Rika, your mother, was the oracle. Huh? Caught off guard, Masaki struggled to process the words his father had exhaled alongside a puff of smoke. I mean what I said, the Hinagami have been marrying the oracle for generations. It's an old custom of ours. Yeah, they said as much before. Yoshifutami had said the same thing over a decade ago. Masaki had dismissed it as fantasy of hers as per Yu's suggestion, yet the truth had been there all along. The same was planned for you. However, that never came to pass because the oracle in question passed away. So Satsuki really was the oracle then? Can't answer that, not so long as I'm the head of the Hinagamis anyway. Are you serious, after everything else that you've already told me? That's just how the customs are. Shizuru took out another cigarette and lit it up. But it seems the bloodline simply must continue, even without the oracle. That's why you're all trying to marry me off? Don't worry, as I said, that plan will have to be put on hold for now. What with the candidates dying one after another. He blew some smoke in the air. It's time. I have to be going now. Shizuru stopped out his cigarette and rose to his feet. Tell me, are you working for that detective? Yes. I say. Shizuru made his way to the door. Hold on, please. I have one more thing to ask. What is it? My Kamizono showed me a photograph of you. Do you have any idea where that came from? Oh, so the photo wasn't actually of... The photo wasn't actually of Masaki himself. It was of his father, huh? Okay. He spoke of the photo that had burst this whole mess. It was after seeing it that Masaki had run away and Mayu had been killed. Her mother must have had it, though I must admit I don't remember giving it to her. I say. Feel free to come back anytime if you need me. I know a lot's happened, but in the end, we're still father and son. She's left the room with those words. Well, I saw he was gonna drop some big revelation, but not really, I guess. Only that we know it with 1000% certainty now, I suppose. The sky was darkening by the time I got home and parked the car. Alright, guess I'll make one more stop before it gets too late. Oh, okay. Well, I feel like we would be best off to just, click our way through this stuff. And just see which one seems the most important for the time being. Sunset's rays were cast upon Ueno Station, and the place was packed with families carting around their luggage, probably people who'd just returned from vacation. I'd planned to ask Toji if she had any new info for me, but she wasn't in her office. She must have been busy. And so I reluctantly returned to the crowded station and took a breather at a completely and mysteriously deserted area in front of a food stall. Then again, there was no mystery as to why no one was around. It's that guy again. This old man does realize that him constantly scanning the area like a hunter on a prowl with a face like his isn't good for business, right? A flyer reading New Takoyaki's resolutions was affixed to the stall. The illustration just looked like 2 layers of smushed takoyaki stacked together to me, though. Those things will never sell. Even if they actually did end up tasting good, the marketing sucked. I was actually starting to feel sorry for the old man. However, just as I was about to walk over and buy one... Takoyaki? Of all the takoyaki joints in all the food stalls in all of Tokyo, Karen Hinagami had walked up to this one. Welcome, young lady. My, what a charmer. Unfortunately, I'm too old to be called that these days. Karen smiled. She must have been in a good mood. Damn, call me surprised, so this old man actually knows how to win people over, huh? Too bad that doesn't translate into sales. I'd recommend this one. It's available for limited time only. So old man pointed at the flyer. New Takoyaki's resolutions? It's a New Year's charm. I'm sure you can find these on display in just about any home right now. I see. I just used rice cakes like everyone else, though. You're behind the times. This is what all the kids are doing these days. I'm sure you're in touch with the kids, old man. Kids wouldn't even be putting up New Year's rice cakes, period. How much is it? She's actually gonna buy it. New Year's rice cake of this size would normally be 80 yen, but this is only 40 yen. Was he seriously still trying to pass it off as a substitute for those? Half the price? That's quite a bargain. Don't take the bait. Oh, but they're perishables. See, so eat them as soon as he can. It was a blatant falsehood. Besides, people wouldn't be putting perishables on display to begin with. Unfortunately, Karen bought the takoyaki without any heed to my internal conflict. Why, hello there, Mr. Tokisaka. Good afternoon. It felt awkward having her address me when I'd seen that whole thing from start to finish. Would you like some takoyaki? Karen held out the takoyaki container that was in the shape of a... what's that? Tri-ratna? No idea. No thanks. I'm good. What's that? I have to find out. Huh. Oh, that's some kind of Buddhist thing, maybe? Yeah, I think so. Well, anyways. Oh, no, thanks. I'm good. I need to get away from this place now. Okay, well, that didn't seem like particularly important, even though it was somewhat funny. How about the Kuchiki Hospital? I returned to Kuchiki Hospital. Not like I'd forgotten anything, though. Took a look around to be safe, but spotted no sign of those sketchy characters. Guess I was just worrying over nothing. The lobby was deserted, obviously. Both outpatient and visiting hours were over. A new orange had been placed atop the rice cake at the reception desk. Not that I come all this way just to check, mind. Oh. Of course we were gonna meet her again, who else? Michiru approached from the hallway.
Yo.
Hey there. Forget something? Michiru cocked her head. Well, no, not exactly. Seriously, why the hell had I driven all the way home, only to take the train back here if I had no business with the place? This was not the behavior of a sound mind. Oh. Michiru suddenly clapped her hands. What is it? She held those same hands out to me. New Year's gift. Sorry, I got nothing. Not that I would have been under any obligation to give her one anyway. Oh. Michiru hung her head and covered her face. Wow, it looks like she really had her hopes up. Now I kind of feel bad. Guess I could spare 100 yen. However, just as I was about to grab my wallet, something fell to the floor. It was a white sphere. A fake eye soullessly stared right up at me. Behold, the New Year's ball drop. Yeah, that's just sick and trademarked. I bent down and picked up Michiru's eye. Better get this thing sterilized first. Ultimately, I found myself stuck until nightfall, wandering the hospital in search of a nurse. Okay. Michiru had a clown for breakfast, apparently. Okay, so what are the other places like? I strolled through Kichijoji Station's shopping district. There were no longer copies of The Sheep of Purgatory out in front of the bookstore. I couldn't tell whether they'd sold out or had just been moved elsewhere. And I wasn't in any rush to find out. There was no way her location would be hinted at in a fictional work of so little substance. As such, reading it seemed pointless. Reiji? I turned around when my name was called. Yukari and Kohane were there. Oh, what brings you two to these parts? We were trying to find something for dinner since Kohane will be staying the night. But what about you? What were you like? Whatever the guest of honor would prefer. I'm not picky. Okay, then let's get some shark fin. Yukari, our guests will surely enjoy the cheapest miso they've got.
ちょっと
That would be heartless, that AG.
じゃあツバメの巣でいいですか
Fine, then bird's nest soup.
ゆかりお客さんには
Yukari, serve our guests your finest swallow's nest soup.
そうですね
Good idea.
そこは断って
No, please. Kohane clung to Yukari's arm as if she were a noblewoman in the reign of terror, begging to be spared the guillotine.
冗談
We're
ですよ
just kidding.
よかった
Oh, thank heavens.
蜂の子入りの蜂
I'll
の
whip up
巣の
some
方が
bee
甘
lava
くて美味しい
soup
ですよ
instead. It's sweeter and tastier than bird's nest soup.
いやそっちがダメ
That's even worse.
まあ
Anyway, all joking aside, what are you actually gonna get?
そうですね
Well, we've had plenty of hot pot recently, so I was thinking of going with something that's more of a staple today.
だったらお寿司がいい
Now
な
let's get sushi. That would be great.
ゆかりお客さんには
Yukari, our guest doesn't eat fish. The rice alone should do.
それだけではかわ
That
い
would be
そうだ
far too cruel.
蜂の子
I'll
は
at least give her
消して
some
あげます
wrapped bee larvae.
蜂の子は
Enough with the
やめて
larvae already. In all seriousness, sushi did sound good. You could make hand-rolled sushi with whatever you liked. Not to mention it was cheap.
そうですね
Good
では
idea,
そう
let's
し
go
ましょ
with
うか
that. Yukari agreed when I presented my idea.
それでは
Since you're here, will you mind carrying your
荷物持ち
groceries
お
for
願い
us?
しますね
Yeah, I figured this would happen.
私キャビアとか
I'd like
食
some
べたいな
caviar.
ゆかりお客さんには
Yukari, serve our guests your finest cod roe.
それじゃあ
That
普
wouldn't
通
be a
です
punishment at all, at AG. But she does have pretty high standards, huh? Although I will say, I guess not wanting bee larva would definitely not be asking too much. Okay, let's Moonworld. Then we decide which way we're gonna go. Though the thought of a quick cup of coffee sounded very appealing at this hour. Oh, did it say sort? The thought of a quick cup, okay. I was gonna say, that sounds wrong. Thus I went to Moonworld.
いらっしゃい
Welcome!
あら
Oh, Tokisaka, it's you.
よ
Hey there, can I get some coffee?
ええ
Sure, coming
ちょっ
right
と
up.
待っててね
I sat at the counter and regarded the cafe proper. Yukiko was inconspicuously seated by the wall. Her nose was stuck in a book. I left her alone, not wanting to bother her when she was so preoccupied.
最近毎日のよう
She
に
started coming here every single day, actually. Kyoko smiled,
家で何かあったのか
seeing she's having problems with her mom. Kept my voice hushed. Situations such as that sounded to me like something had happened that made her want to avoid spending time at home.
そういうことはないわよ
Not at all, Fuyumi always comes to pick her up.
だったらいいんだけ
Then I guess it's all good. You really do have a bad habit of assuming the worst, you know. Here's your coffee.
コーヒー
Thanks. I'd probably been reading too much into that bunch outside the hospital too. Suspecting everything was just a curse that came with being a detective. Not that I was proud of it, of course. I sipped my coffee. The bitterness stung my tongue and cleared my foggy brain. Afterward, I glanced back at Yukiko. Seeing her quietly reading in the corner of the cafe brought back memories of her, whether I wanted it to or not. Even though I thought that was strange. After all, the two were hardly alike, apart from age.
コーヒーのおかわり
Yeah,
開けますか
Toko was like a very, I guess, how could you say? Very playful individual, I guess you could say. And she's just like super shy. You know.
はい
Of course, dear. Coming right up. Kyoko picked up the pot of coffee and made a beeline for Yukiko. There was something they definitely didn't have in common. It was that she had never gone close to Kyoko the way Yukiko had.
時坂くんおかわりは
Would you like another too, Tokisaka?
もう少し
I think I'll take you up on that in a few minutes. I still had over half my cup left after all.
じゃあ
Right.
あげるわね
You can have this in the meantime. Kyoko served me some rice crackers on a saucer.
なんでせ
Why rice crackers?
私のおやつ
Because I made them.
だ ったらお茶の方がいいな。
This is supposed to go with tea, though. Oh, they go just fine with coffee, too, see? Kyoko pointed at Yukiko. The girl was reading a book in one hand while downing a rice cracker and coffee with the other.
まあいいけど。
If you say so. I wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth, and it was probably better than sweet chocolate in this case. Thus, I bit into one of the crunchy rice crackers, only to find it was miso flavored, and therefore salty. Huh. Wonder if Toji was behind that. Possibly. Well, I mean, which one are we gonna go with? None of them really seem like super essential or anything for the story as a whole, so I don't know. I guess we could go with Ueno just because, you know, we did meet Karen Hinagami, who is still not entirely cleared of suspicions. Man, I'm stuffed. Kohane flopped face up onto the floor after downing her dessert tea. It's poor manners to do that as soon as you finish eating, Kohane. Yukari piled their empty dishes in the wooden hangiri bowl as she chided Kohane. Fortunately, Reiji wasn't around to witness this desecration of his living room on account of having just returned to his own room. You're not gonna eat that cucumber, right? Can I have it? By all means, we have more seaweed too. Yeah, but that gets all dry on its own. Despite her complaint, Kohane wrapped the cucumber up in seaweed and started eating it. Ah, by the way, did you finish homework? I have no idea what you just said. Ask if you finished your homework. What does it matter? You're only here to copy it either way, aren't you? Hey, you know me so well, Kari. Exactly how much have you done on your own? Well, I answered the second math problem. So only one more since New Year's. In any case, it's too late to start copying now. I doubt you'll finish in time. Yukari looked at the calendar. It was Saturday. The new semester started on Monday. Logistically, Kohane could probably copy everything if she spent the whole night on it. But knowing her, she wouldn't have the attention span to pull that off. Alright, then let's get started. Yukari grabbed the dishes and rose to her feet. Mind if we take a little break first? Can't work on a bloated stomach. Just don't fall asleep, please. After doing the dishes, Yukari brought the radio into her room and started playing music as she read a book. Kohane was right next to her, frantically copying her homework. Please try solving them in your head while you copy my answers, if nothing else. The shogunate that started in 1192 was the Nara shogunate. The only thing they have in common are giant Buddha statues. It's the Kamakura shogunate. Yeah, I knew that. See, it's right here. Why would you ever say Nara? Kohane paid no heed to Yukari's exasperation and hummed joyously as she copied her friend's homework. Hey, Kari. What is it this time? You got a crush on anyone? This again, huh? Huh? That's not what I wanted. Now that Yukari hadn't seen coming. I mean, that guy who was with your bro seemed like a catch, am I wrong? You mean Mr. Masaki? I'm not sure. Kohane had asked the same question before, but Yukari was still no closer to an answer. She never looked at him that way, after all. Nor had her heart ever been blessed by the stirrings of love. Remember how I told you there was this older boy I had to sing for? Yeah. Well, what I didn't tell you is that he was actually Yukiko's older brother. Nani? Huh? But Yukiko's never said anything about him. Yukiko Yukiko claimed she didn't remember that part of her life. But no matter how blurry her memories were, the idea that she'd forgotten her own brother was utterly inconceivable. Well, a whole lot happened back then, including stuff we'd rather forget, so maybe that's why.
戦争ですか？
You mean the war?
そうなの？
Maybe. Honestly, I don't remember too much
私も
myself.
あんまり覚えち
But
ゃ
I
い
know
ない
we
けど、
lived with tons of other
孤児だった子が
orphans.
たくさん集められて生活してたのよ。
This was the first Yukari had heard of Kohane being an orphan.
ユキコちゃんとか、お
Such
兄ち
as
ゃんと
Yukiko
か、
and her brother.
他に
There
も
were
何人か
others
いた
too,
け
of
ど、
course,
み
but
ん
they
な
all
人
got
に引き
adopted,
取られて
and I never saw them
離れ
again.
離れになっちゃったの。
I
そ
had
ん
no
なことがあった
idea.
のですか？
What does one say to that? With no good answer to that question, those 4 words were all Yukari could manage.
だから、
So yeah, I figured
お
something
兄ちゃんのこと
serious must have happened to Yukiko if she can't even remember her own brother.
その後何か
Yeah, you can say that again. Perhaps her mother knows something. However, Yukari didn't have the guts to ask Miss Kayahara. She wasn't her brother. She was no detective. Plus, since Yukiko was her friend, she figured it'd be best to keep that to herself until Yukiko finally opened up.
ごめんね。
Sorry for turning this into a downer. Didn't mean to make things awkward. Oh no, you didn't. Not
そ
at
んな
all.
ことありませんよ。
Just a little. Had Yukiko been there and told Yukari herself, she probably would have thanked Yukiko for confiding in her. But since she'd only heard it from Kohane, Yukari felt nothing but guilt. She knew something about Yukiko that not even the girl herself knew, leaving Yukari at a loss. For she now no longer had any idea how to interact with her, whether to act like nothing had happened and changed or not. I mean, isn't it pretty much going to be the same, you know, because, I mean, she might feel bad about it, but if Yukiko doesn't remember and she doesn't mention it, then what's going to change? Masaki walked to the Kuchiki hospital from Nakano Station. There were hardly any cars in the parking lot, unsurprising, considering that it was a Sunday morning. A three-wheeled truck sputtering exhaust sat in the back, but that was about it. However, that didn't mean the hospital was deserted, of course. Nanako had said she was on a break until 4, so this was the day that she was due back. Masaki had some questions for her. Questions about Naori and the Hinagamis, mostly. As well as others he would have felt awkward asking in front of Naori. The hospital was as quiet as a morgue. A New Year's rice cake without an orange topping it sat on the reception desk. Nanako was nowhere to be seen. Masaki had to guess, though, she was somewhere further inside.
あら、どうかしましたか？
Oh, what brings you here, Mr. Masaki? Suddenly, Masaki bumped into Koharu right as he was sneaking a peek down the hallway.
山之内先生、
Dr. Yamanouchi, you know where Sawashiro is at the moment?
沢城さんでしたら、
Sawashiro? I believe she should be attending to inpatients at this hour.
そうですか。
Say, thank you very much. Can't go bothering her while she's busy. May as well just wait in the lobby then. It was with that thought that Masaki took a seat on a nearby bench. While he waited, he pondered whether he should ask Nanako about the blessed congregation or Hitagata first. Let me guess. Michiru's gonna show up, right? Since she was linked to both, she appeared deeply involved with a considerable number of aspects in this case. And if he'd noticed that, Reiji must have as well. As such, she knew he needn't probe her too deeply. If anything, that would only heighten her guard and complicate further investigation. Still, that didn't mean he could just sit back and twiddle his thumbs either. After all, it didn't change that there was things he wanted to check with Nanako that he couldn't have asked his father. Such as why she was on the one tasked with telling Masaki about the whole marriage scheme for starters. There were just so many things she'd done that, frankly, made no sense whatsoever to him. Such as how she'd subbed for Shizuru in accompanying Karen back to Hitogata for New Year's. She told Reiji it was because she owed Shizuru big time, but Masaki wasn't entirely convinced.
あやとくん、
Especially because she barely interacted with him, right? Oh, Ayato. Masaki craned his head when he heard his real name. Nanako was there, walking his way.
ナナコさん
Nanako would. However, Nanako interrupted him before he could ask her to call him Masaki instead.
隼人君白崎さんを
Have you seen Shirosaki Ayato?
白崎
Shirosaki? He was probably talking about Michiro Shirosaki.
どうかしたん
No, why do you ask?
剣を
Well, she wasn't in her room when it went to take her temperature. Wonder where she could have wandered off to. Masaki couldn't help but find that ironic, considering how he'd never actually seen Michiro in her room.
その辺にいるんじゃないですか
Perhaps she's still in the general area.
そう思
I
って
thought so too, but I didn't find her anywhere nearby. Strange, she was in her room just a few minutes ago too. Nanako started scanning the area, so Masaki followed suit. Though he knew Nanako wouldn't have been so worried if that was all it took to find her.
どこかの部屋にいる
You know, do you think she could be in another room?
そうね
Possibly. I'll keep looking around a little.
隼人君
Ayato, would you... It was then that a look of realization dawned on her face.
まさきさんは
I'm sorry, I mean, Masaki, would you mind looking for her outside? I doubt she left, but you never
いい
know.
と思うけど
わかりました
Alright. I suppose I'll just save my questions for later. Masaki got up and went outside.
さて
Let's see. He surveyed the area right outside the door. Michiro was nowhere in sight. There weren't even any passers-by around. As such, she had no one to question. The parking lot was also empty, so she would have had nowhere to hide. I should probably widen my search radius a little. Masaki went out to the street and looked around for Michiro. It was too cold for patients to be wandering around in their hospital gowns. Thus Masaki didn't imagine she would have gone out. Regardless, he circled the hospital but found neither hide nor hair of Michiro. She must still be inside. Masaki returned to the entrance for the time being. There, he stared out at the empty parking lot, pondering where Michiro could have gone. It was then that he noticed something on the ground. A closer look revealed it was the stuffed rabbit Michiro always carried around. Oh, that's not a good sign. She always has it with her. Why would it be out here? Suddenly it hit Masaki. When it arrived, there had been a small truck in the parking lot around that spot. Clear tire tracks had been left in the snow where it stood as a testament to that. The stuffed rabbit had probably been hidden in the shadow of the truck, explaining why Masaki hadn't noticed it upon arriving. And considering the spot was close to the hospital's back entrance, it was perfectly plausible that Michiro could have left through there. Plus, there were many footprints in the snow that suggested multiple people had gone in and out. Though honestly, none of them looked like Michiro's. Of course, the footprints could have been covered by others. But whatever the case, it didn't change the fact that her stuffed rabbit was sitting here. It quickly dawned upon Masaki that much as he wished otherwise, it was all up to him to deduce what had happened to Michiro, what with no Reiji around to help. Did she run away? Since Michiro wasn't inside or outside the hospital, that was the only conclusion he could draw. Perhaps I'll widen my search range. I'll start with the station, and if she's not there, I'll just have to scour the area. Masaki eyed his surroundings as he took off for the station, figuring this was the time to act, not think. Well, that's certainly unexpected. I drove to Kichiki Hospital after getting a call about an emergency. My heart had pounded furiously during the whole ride over. All I'd been told was that Michiro had disappeared from the hospital. Whenever I wanted, whether I wanted or not, couldn't help but be reminded of the day she vanished nearly 2 years ago. She nearly vanished 2 years ago. The situation this time was totally different, of course. Still, I had to prevent history from repeating itself, no matter the cost.
時坂さん
Mr. Tokisaka. Nanako was all alone in the deserted lobby.
つま先は
As Masaki was neither hide nor hair of him.
まさき
Masaki searching the area, he figured she might be nearby. Well, that definitely won't help. Did that nitwit seriously not consider the worst case scenario?
警察に連絡はし
Have
ま
you
した
called the police? I recalled the suspicious men I'd seen the day prior.
一応は
Yes, the director is talking with them now, though they only dispatched a single officer from the local police station. If you ask me, you should call the MPD and get them to comb the whole vicinity if possible. So you say, but I don't think we should be making that big of a deal out of it. Why not? We need to find her before it's too late. We'd allow one culprit to die and another to get away 2 years ago. I'd be damned if we let that happen all over again. Oh, Mr. Tokisaka. Masaki stepped in through the entrance at the exact moment. Did you find her? I already knew the answer, yet I had to ask anyway. As expected, Masaki shook his head. It doesn't appear she's anywhere nearby. Where in the world could she have gone? I saw 2 sketchy men in the parking lot yesterday. Worst case scenario, they kidnapped her. I don't know, I think you're reaching. Masaki set a dirty stuffed rabbit on a bench. Ready to get that? Isn't that the one Michiro takes with her everywhere? Found in the parking lot, so I'm sure she must have gone outside. Oh, for the love of you stupid piece of shit. The fact that it was lying there means she likely wasn't in any position to pick it up. But though, something wrong? When I came here this morning, there was a truck parked where I found the rabbit. It vanished not too long after, so maybe, just maybe. You know, remember the license plate number? No, I didn't think much of it at the time. Today's a Sunday, so there wouldn't have been a maintenance man or anything like that. Let's ask the police to expand the search radius. We still have... Wherever the rest of my sentence died in my throat. At the sight of Koharu entering the hospital with Michiro in tow. I found Miss Shirosaki. Where was she? She was standing on the side of the road right around the corner. Oh, thank heavens. Nanako hugged Michiro. Did you ask her what happened? I directed my question at Koharu, not Michiro. Well, that's the problem. She won't tell me anything. Koharu's shoulder slumped. So what I can say is that her clothes are dirty, and I doubt a little stroll in the neighbor is responsible. Can worry about that later. Let's just be happy she's back safe and sound. Pardon me, but could you go inform Fumiya? Oh yes, good idea. We wouldn't want to make more trouble for the police. Koharu made a beeline for his office. Oh. Michiro slipped out of Nanako's grasp and picked her stuffed rabbit off the bench. Oh, Carol, thank goodness. I've never seen her face brighten with such relief before. Where did you go? Masaki questioned Michiro. Nowhere. Michiro shook her head. Do you honestly believe anyone is going to... Whoa, hold your horses. I stopped Masaki just as he started to lose his temper. We need to get her out of these dirty clothes first. Could you help with that, Miss Sawashiro? Yes, of course. I'll go draw a bath while I'm at it too. Nanako left us to our devices. He's lying, Mr. Tokisaka. Couldn't have just been standing around. Obviously. Something had definitely happened, that much was certain. But she clearly wasn't willing to tell us anything either. Hey, Michiro. Yeah? Michiro craned her head my way. Her bandages shielding her left eye socket were also dirty. Should get those bandages swapped out too. Oh, and I'm sure your shoes must be dirty. Yeah. Michiro removed her slippers. Took them from her and checked her soles. They were wet and muddy, possibly from walking outside. However, wiping them off a little revealed that they were actually relatively clean. If she'd been walking for a while, then would have found pebbles and stuff like that stuck to them. So the fact that they weren't meant... You sniffing them?
それは違うからな。
Of course not. What kind of deviant do you think I am? I don't know, man. Maybe he's just into feet and everything that belongs to it, you know? I handed the slippers back to her.
本当は何か
Come on, you can talk to me. What really happened?
何も話さない
Promised I'd keep it to myself. You did, huh?
約束
Aside,
誰と約
and
束した
just
んだ
who did you make that promise with? Michiru shrank back and grabbed my sleeve.
そうすごむなよ
Don't push her.
でも
But
約束しちゃったんだ
she made a promise, so she can't go breaking it now. Isn't that right? Michiru nodded.
白崎さん
Are you up for a bath, Shirosaki? Michiru got off the bench. Oh, for you. She fished 2 objects out of her pocket and gave them to me and Masaki.
バイバイ
Bye. And just like that, she took off with Nanako.
なんでしょう
What in the world is this supposed to
これ
mean?
を見せるものって
What we now held were peeled oranges covered in pit.
もしかして行った先
Perhaps she left an orange trail to where she was.
何個必要
Yeah, no, I seriously doubt she could have pulled a Hansel and Gretel with just 2 oranges. I popped the orange into my mouth, pit and all. It was a bit sweet, just like the one the day before.
じゃあ自分はもう少し調べてみます
Alright then, I'll go do a little more digging.
ああ
Good idea. Sure would be nice if she'd just come clean about it herself, though. That said, we probably wouldn't have much luck with that given Michiru's attitude.
何者かに
Now, we're certain she was kidnapped, right?
自分で歩いて
Yeah, her slippers would have been dirty otherwise. If I were a betting man, I'd say she'd been thrown into that truck Masaki mentioned earlier. Since I hadn't seen it for myself, I wouldn't exactly be much help finding it.
ミチルが再びさらわれ
Maybe we should set a watch up so no one tries snatching her again.
一応自
Well,
分
I'm
は
not sure how much good it will do.
という車を
I'll go look for that
探して
car you saw yesterday to be
います
safe.
オースチンとかいう
You
車
said it
で
was
す
called an Austin, right?
日産のオースチン
A Nissan Austin Cambridge, yeah. It's a newer model, so there shouldn't be many of them around. Don't mistake it for the Somerset. Its predecessor.
自分には何が
I don't really know the difference, though.
まあなんとかし
I'm sure you work something out. Oh, by the way, keep your schedule for tomorrow open, okay? There's something I'd like you to do for me.
どうせ予定なんて
Didn't have plans anyway,
それじゃ
so that should work out just fine. Anyway, I'll see you later. Masaki left the hospital. Guess I should get moving too. More choices, okay. Well, might as well do a save. Make a save here. Well, no idea. We'll just have to click through again. Ueno Station was cast in the hues of sunset. Hardly anyone was around, as if to let the world know that the New Year's hype was finally dead. That dearth of people even overshadowed the spot in front of the station that was always empty, or so I foolishly saw it for a moment. Of course he's here. The gloomy old man's stall was as devoid of customers as ever. How the heck does this guy make a living? Couldn't imagine he sold enough takoyaki to make ends meet. Maybe his stall was actually a hit, and I just happened to never be around for the crowds. Gonna buy something? The old man gave me a desk glare.
じゃあ
Sure, I'll take 10. I was scared he'd kill me if I said no. Coming right up. The old man poured batter onto his stove. People who can afford to take New Year's off sure are lucky bastards. Cockroaches like me gotta work to the bone until we can finally get some grub in our bellies. Yeah. All you need is a better marketing team, my man. And it'll be fine. Surely. Why did I have to be subjected to his rants? You're in the same boat, aren't you, young man? He wasn't entirely wrong, but the thought of us being similar was unsettling.
おじさま
Excuse me, sir, can I have an order of takoyaki? Suddenly a voice swooped in from out of nowhere. Oh, you again, young lady. Glad to see you come back so soon. The old man's features softened.
あら時
My, if it isn't Mr. Tokisaka.
どうも
Good afternoon. It was Karen Hinagami. I couldn't believe I'd actually run into her here, of all places.
まさか常連なん
Wait,
です
don't
か
tell me you're regular.
え
Yes, this place is never crowded, so I can always count on a quick meal here. Maybe I was just seeing things, but the old man looked a little discouraged to hear her say that.
今日もお仕事ですか
Are you working today? I figured it a reasonable assumption given her attire and the bundle of documents under her arm.
ええ
Yes, hospitals are busy on weekdays, so weekends are the best time to schedule meetings.
休日の方が向いているんです。
大変そう
Sounds rough.
これが
Ah, it's just another part of the job. Karen grinned.
お仕事が
Sounds to me like you enjoy the work.
え
Yes, it's a job that benefits people in need, after all. Here's your takoyaki, young man. The old man interrupted our conversation.
まあ自分よりも
No, let her have it. Can wait.
あら
My, what a gentleman you are. Karen giggled. No, I'm just hoping that'll give me a chance to cancel my order, that's all.
確か30円でしたわね
30 yen, isn't it?
お嬢ちゃん
For
だったら
you, 20 is enough.
10円で結構だよ。
本当
You
ですか
really mean that? Thank you so much. Karen handed over the money.
毎度
I'm back soon.
では
I must be going now, Mr. Tokisaka. Please give my regards to my brother.
え
Sure thing. Karen disappeared into the station.
なあおやさん
Hey, hey, old man, about my order. Can I? Don't worry, it's almost done. Damn, too late. I'll just pay and get out of here as soon as I can then. Wait, is it just me or is my order bigger than Karen's? I was so touched by your generosity that I decided to give you extra. Hey, you just have to get on his good side, right? And he'll be a bro and give you extra stuff. Great. One time I didn't want something on the house.
30円
30 yen, alright? Produced my wallet, figuring it wouldn't extend me the same courtesy he had Karen. Come back soon. Hopefully not too soon. Okay, so that's that. Let's see what the other spots have in store for us. Yeah, what could possibly be new in this place? But yeah. Let's go there anyway. I turned right back into the hospital. Though I'd already tried once, I was hoping to get some answers out of Michiru. The lobby was still deserted. A new orange had been set atop the New Year's rice cake on the reception desk. Isn't it about time they took that down? I nabbed the orange as that thought rose to the forefront of my mind. Given everything that had just happened, Michiru was probably in her room. Let's see, it was this way, right? I proceeded down the hallways until I found a door labeled Michiru Shirosaki.
みちる入るぞ
Michiru, I'm coming in. Uh-oh. Okay, it's not that bad, but still. Let's make sure she's, we cover her up, right? The first thing I noticed when I stepped inside was her bared skin, pale as the moon. Oh. Michiru turned to me.
悪い
Oh, sorry about that. I turned and tried to leave.
待って
Wait. Huh? Michiru's voice brought me to a halt.
背中届かないから拭いて
Can't reach my back. Try it. She held a towel out to me.
誰か他の人に頼んでなさい
Sorry, but ask someone else.
ななこちゃんも
Nanako's
ないから
Nanny's not here, so do it now before I catch a cold. She must have just gotten out of the bath, seeing as how her hair was wet and all. She's really laying on the guilt. Fine, just turn the other way. took the towel and reached out to her back. I was completely spotless, but without the bandages, I could now see the countless dirty red scars across her wrists and neck. They'd probably been self-inflicted.
かゆいところとかないか
Are you itching anywhere? I asked as I wiped her back.
あそこがかゆい
Yeah, there. Real helpful. I combed up her hair and wiped her neck.
変な
Quit
声
making
出
those sounds.
ちょっと感じた
But that really did it for me. I ultimately decided that was a comment best left ignored.
拭き終わったぞ
There, all done.
前は
What about the front?
自分でやりなさい
Do that yourself. I handed to the towel. Michiru started wiping herself down.
なあみちる
Not exactly, but, you know. There's some bare skin. It's not that bad, but I guess I could show that. I just covered it up in case there was gonna be more, you know. It doesn't look like it, but you never know, right? Hey, Michiru.
何
Yeah? She turned her head my way.
さっきは
What exactly happened to you today?
知らない
Dunno. Michiru shook her head, much as I expected.
どうあっても
There's no way you'll ever tell me.
約束したから
No, I promised not to. That was the same response as before. However, the fact that she'd made a promise meant someone else had definitely been involved, which was another way of saying she clearly hadn't run away by herself. But who? Who could it have been? My first guess was the kidnapper. Some things didn't add up if it'd been the work of the hoodlums from yesterday. First, there'd been two of them, and second, they'd come off as the types who'd resort to threats of violence to ensure Michiru's silence. But those sorts of threats no longer held power once you were out of harm's way, which meant Michiru would have had no further reason to keep quiet after she was safe and sound. Now, while it was entirely possible they terrified her so badly that she didn't dare talk about it, said hypothesis didn't mesh with how calm she was. So then, who in the world had sworn her to secrecy?
時坂さん
Oh no. She walked in at the exactly wrong moment. Mr. Tokisaka. My maelstrom of thoughts was swept away by Nanako's voice.
何をなさって
What are you doing?
何を
Well, grown man was in the same room as a girl practically garbed in a birthday suit. Yeah, this would go over well.
みちるの体を
Was just
拭いて
drying
みた
Michiru off, that's all. She's not gonna believe it, that is she?
とにかく部屋から出てください
Just get out of here. Sorry. I did as she ordered, seeing how she clearly wouldn't take any excuses. Okay, now we're definitely out. That's probably over. Then I smoked by a nearby ashtray until an apologetic Nanako eventually left Michiru's room.
すみません誤解
Sorry, it sounds like you really were telling the truth.
いや
No need to apologize. Anyone would have jumped to the same conclusions as you. Wait, Michiru actually took responsibility? Never thought I'd see the day.
でもみかんは
Still, it was wrong of you to bribe her with an orange to keep her quiet. I spoke too soon. Come to think of it, the orange had disappeared from the reception desk at some point. Had the culprit bribed her in a similar manner? Nah, no way. Huh, we don't know really, but okay, let's check the other two. Although I have to wonder with that, you normally never get new CG or images, you know, during these selection parts. So I wonder if that was maybe important or something. But anyway, let's have a quick look at the other things here as well. I took a walk around Inokashira Park. There was a thin film of ice at the edge of the pond. Unfortunately, it seemed the worst of the cold had yet to come. I doubted the pond won't freeze so easily, but the docks and whatnot would sure have it rough if it did. Not that worrying about that would do me any good, though. Those thoughts and more raced through my mind when suddenly I saw a familiar girl up ahead. Ah, it's you. Oh, the girl Yukiko jolted when she saw me.
Yeah, Kaihara-san.
Hey there, Kaihara. Good afternoon. Yukiko timidly bowed.
こんなところで何をして
What are
い
you
る
doing in these parts? Oh, nothing, really. Doesn't look like nothing. Yukiko hung her head. The action betrayed her words louder than anything else.
そうか。
Same. However, I simply leaned against the fence without rising to meet the challenge. Several dry leaves were encased under the ice. I poked the ice with a stick, but the leaves just floated out toward the center of the pond instead of breaking.
何をしているんですか？
What are you doing?
意味なんてないさ。
Oh, it doesn't really matter. I threw the stick away.
君が抱えている悩みに比べ
Not compared to the worries you're wrestling with at the moment, anyway.
どうして？
What made you think I'm worrying about something? Yukiko shot an uneasy glance my way.
なんとなく
Just a hunch. You had the same look on your face as an old friend of mine who used to hang out around here, that's why.
住んでいた知り合いが昔
I see. It sounded to me like she wanted more details. Still, I couldn't bring myself to elaborate further.
私
I'm not sure what I should do. Yukiko finally cracked.
将来の悩み
Worried about your future? It was a common concern for girls her age, if nothing else.
母さんには今までお世話に
My mom has been nothing but good to me all these years, so I want to find a way to pay her back. But I don't know how. She hung her head, staring out at the pond.
これは試験でしかないが
Maybe I don't have the full story, but personally I doubt your mom wants or expects anything like that. Does that not sound right? At the very least, that was probably how most parents who raise their children lovingly, anyway, felt.
でも私は
But I'm adopted, so...
もらわれ
母親からの愛情は感
You
じ
believe your mother doesn't love you?
そんな
What? Oh, I'm sure she does. I mean, she's such a kind and gentle soul. Yukiko shook her head.
だけど
But I want to repay her regardless of... No, I want to repay her precisely because of that.
君の中で
Deep down, you already have your answer, don't you? Sounds that way to me anyway. Maybe you're right, but I don't know if you could really call that paying her back.
まだ焦る必要はないんじゃないかな
Well, there's no need to rush things. You're still young,
まだ若
so
い
you've
し
got nothing but time.
はたくさんあるのだから
Yes, I suppose you're right.
ですね
Yukiko agreed, even though we both knew that was clearly a stall tactic. She wouldn't have been worrying so much if the solution were simple after all. Still, what she needed most at the moment was peace of mind, not an answer.
ありがとうございます
Thank you very much. Yukiko bowed. I simply nodded, not feeling like I'd actually helped, but not wanting to be rude either. Okay, we have one more. What we want to look at. Now let's go with the station then. Okay, anyways, I went to the tiny shopping district by Kichijoji Station. It was there that I found Kohane fervently leafing through a book in front of the bookstore.
やあ鳥居さん
Hey there, Kohane.
あ、お兄さん
Oh, if it isn't brother Tokisaka. Kohane put the book back on its shelf after noticing me.
太宰治か
Reading up on your Osamu Dazai, huh? The cover had read Otogi Zoshi.
実は
Only because I've still got homework.
昨晩ゆかりとやって
Wait, I saw you did that with Yukari last night.
ほとんどは
I finished copy. I mean, I finished most of it, but I've still got a book report.
初感想文だけが残っちゃって
Yeah, I guess it would be obvious if you copied someone else's book report.
そうなんですよ
Exactly. Had she forgotten the verbal correction she tried pulling on me literally seconds earlier?
それで
So anyway, I'm trying to look for something that would get me an easy A.
だったら
Wouldn't you try going with a more comprehensible book then? Nothing against Osamu Dazai, of course.
何かおすすめあります？
Like what?
おすすめ。
Huh. I scanned the bookshelves. There were books by Ryunosuke Akutagawa and Ruiko Kuroiwa or something like that. There too, so it must have been the Japanese literature section. How about something from Saburo Koga? He wrote short stories, so it shouldn't take long to read one.
よく知りません。
Never heard of him.
じゃあ知っている作家をあげ
Then
る。
name me an author you do know.
お名前
Ore no Imoko?
何を書いたんだよ。
Not Ore no Imoto. That would be weird. What did he write?
平家物語でしたっけ？
The Tale of the Heike, I think. I was so wrong that I had no idea whether she was screwing with me or not.
読書
Maybe
感想文
something
で
more recent would make for a
新しい
better
本の方
report.
がいいんですかね？
古典を読むのも
What, you don't like the classics?
薄くて
Sure I do, but I
簡単なのがいい
think
ん
something
ですけど
short and simple would fit me best.
そうよ
I hear you, but still. Though there were plenty of short stories out there, I struggled to come up with one that was simple.
この辺は短編集
Looks like the ones over there here are short story and anthologies. Kohane plucked a book off the shelf. Hey, this one seems good.
ここ数
It's a
年
collection of
雑誌
short
で
stories
発
that
表
were
された
published in
短編小説
magazines over the
と
last
して
few
知られてる
years.
から良さそうですよ。
お
Oh, wow. Hold up. Wasn't I supposed to be doing the recommending here? Regardless, I took the book and checked the table of contents.
この
Wait, it's probably best you don't go with this one, actually. A familiar author's name had turned me off it almost instantly.
なんでですか？
Why is that? I was stumped. Would have been easy enough to explain, but I wasn't sure that would even convince her.
これより前に出た本の方がいいんじゃない
Well, maybe something that came out a little earlier would be better suited for the task. I pointed to an anthology of stories from the early 1950s.
でも新しい
But I
方
think
がいい
this
と
one
思
will
うん
work
ですよ。
better since it's more recent than that.
30
Wait,
年代の方が
where have I heard this author's name before? Kohane pondered aloud as she stared at the table of contents. Oh. Had she remembered? It would make sense if Yukari had told her about him.
やっぱり私この本
I
に
think
し
I'm
ます
still gonna go with this one.
なぜだい
Why is that? Apparently realizing who the author in question was hadn't deterred Kohane at all.
ちゃんと読んで
So I can read it and tell Kari what I thought about it.
そう
I
か
must say, if that was her reasoning, then I had no place stopping her.
ただ
But I doubt I'm gonna be able to finish the whole thing by tomorrow, if I actually take this seriously.
それは俺にだって
Can't help you there.
できないな
Well, it would have made sense just to give her the task to read through that new book of him. You know, The Sheep of Purgatory or whatever it was called. Okay, we're just gonna go with Kuchiki Hospital because I feel like this must be important when it gets an extra image for it, right? So, with dinner and bath done, sleep was all I had left to look forward to.
そういやゆかり明日から
Start school again tomorrow, right, Yukari?
明日は
Technically, no. Tomorrow's the opening ceremony, but classes don't begin until Tuesday.
夏休み
Ah, pretty short vacation compared to summer break, huh?
年末年始
True, but I'm
まとま
just
ったお休みが
grateful to
もら
get
え
a
るだけ
decent
ありが
amount
た
of
いです
time off.
家
It
の
gave me the
掃除も
chance to do
終
some
わりました
spring cleaning too.
仕事を始め
So
る
you
の
know
に
you
なったら
stop getting
そんな
vacations
約束
like
って
these
ない
when you
から
join
な
the workforce.
兄さんは毎
But
日
don't you
がお
treat
休み
every
みたいな
single
夢
day
が
like a
なさ
vacation?
俺だって一生
Hey,
懸命
I'll have you
働いて
know
るんだ
that I
から
take my
な
job plenty serious. Hey, I
分かってい
know.
ますよ
Yukari handed me a steaming cup of tea.
お仕事は順調
Speaking
です
of
か
which, is work going well?
まあまあ
It's alright. I kept my response vague.
早く解決
Sure hope
す
your
るといい
case
です
closes soon.
そうだな
Me too. Ultimately, I only gave another vague response as I cooled my tea. Okay. That looks like a murderer POV again. Or it's just something out of that book again. Or whatever, I don't know. I was dreaming. Could tell because it was the same one I'd had so many times prior. My left eye watched the whole thing against all my earnest wishes. A boy and a girl stood in the darkness. Both were my friends. There were tons of other boys and girls there too, though I don't know if I would have called them friends. In any case, my eye only saw those two particular people. The other kids were sleeping by the walls, just like me. That was how I knew this was a dream. For I could see the both of them even though I was sleeping. There had been no one else there at the time. The girl grabbed the boy's neck. She screamed something while the boy replied in a fluster, but I couldn't remember either statement. However, I knew neither was anything ordinary. After all, strangling someone was not the act of a sane mind, no matter how you sliced it. I tried to close my eye. I didn't want to keep watching despite knowing, no, because I knew it was a dream. Unfortunately, my eyelid was frozen in place. That had happened to me many a time before, and it would happen many a time again. Everything was exactly the same as that day. The girl's fingers dug into the boy's neck. The boy reached out to the girl. The girl was grinning. The boy was smiling. Perhaps neither of them were actual smiles, but that was what it looked like from a distance. The boy's arms flopped onto the floor. The girl released his neck. She then embraced his corpse and smiled once more. I'd seen this whole thing many, many times. At some point, my brain had started to put a filter akin to a frosted glass over the whole scene, preventing me from seeing it clearly. And yet, I still hadn't forgotten. I could never forget that day, hence why this dream constantly haunted my sleep. Now, this is just a suspicion, but you know, Kohane was staying the night earlier, and she was telling Yukari that apparently, when back in the days when she was an orphan and knew Yukiko, Yukiko apparently had a brother, and she doesn't remember him anymore, Yukiko, that is. So that's interesting, and just reading that right there makes me think that Yukiko might have killed him. But, you know, we don't know for sure. That's just an assumption. Don't you need to get up at Eiji? I could hear Yukari. 5 more minutes. It's too cold. I couldn't escape from the temptation of my warm covers. Sheesh. This is your last chance before I leave, you know? Yeah. I forced my eyes open, revealing a uniformed Yukari hovering above my futon. Alright, she's gonna attend her school's opening ceremony today. I've left your breakfast in the living room, so please wash the dishes once you're done eating. Sure. Okay. Good, I'll see you later then. Yukari left the room. Guess I should get up. Wait, that would mean leaving all this warmth behind, right? Yeah, screw that. I would have had more incentive to get out of bed if Yukari had at least lit the brazier, but no such luck. Eiji? Yukari suddenly returned to my room. I looked up at her from under the covers again. You have a telegram for Toyama. Toyama? News from Yuzuru Kuroya, maybe? I'll leave it here, alright? I reached for the telegram, but Yukari ignored me and set the envelope on the desk farthest from my futon. Yukari! I believe you would have an easier time remembering what it says if you read it after getting up and treating yourself to breakfast. Yukari left the room with those words. It was so right that I couldn't even argue with her. Fine, I'll get up this time for real. I grabbed the envelope and went to the living room. Fortunately, it was at least nice and toasty in there. It honestly made me feel like an idiot for shivering in my futon. Rice and miso soup were both waiting for me in bowls, but neither had gone cold. Though I was curious about the telegram, I decided to take Yukari's advice and eat my breakfast first. I wolfed down my grilled sardines and radishes like a starving predator. Then I gulped down my mushroom miso soup and polished off the rice before stacking my plate and bowls. Finally, I took a breath after dumping them in the water-filled bucket in the kitchen. I was fully awake by then, thanks to the influx of nutrition my brain had just received. Okay, time to see what Yuzuru Kuroya had sent over. I opened the envelope and procured the document. Okay. It was the list of Hinagami and Shigusa blood types it requested the other day. It even included the genotypes, as any good doctor would. Hidiomi Hinagami AA, Mariku Hinagami AO, Shizuru Hinagami AA, Ayato Hinagami O, Karen Hinagami O. Okay. Yoshimitsu Shigusa BO, Ryoko Shigusa O, Michio Shigusa BO, Miya Shigusa O, and Saya Shigusa BO. It seemed Yuzuru hadn't included either his or Kensei Shigusa's blood types, given the former had left the Hinagami family while the latter had married into the Shigusas. Michio Shigusa was probably the one who'd founded the Congregation of the Blessed. Furthermore, Masaki had told me that Ryoko Shigusa and Mariku Hinagami were sisters. In any case, the Hinagamis were primarily type A, while the Shigusas were type B, from what I could tell. Wait. Corpse's blood type is still a mystery, huh? I saw back to the severed limbs that supposedly belonged to Satsuki. This document was pointless without their blood type. If she was type B, then she was very likely related to the Shigusas, though there was a chance that she had type A blood, depending on her parents. I rose to my feet, document still in hand. Next, I took a little stroll over to the family library. Normally, it got so cold in the winter that I only went in there to retrieve books. But I remembered that last month, I'd gone looking for books about genetics out of curiosity from what I'd been told about the subject after donating blood to Masaki. Soon enough, I found a simple chart. It was a list of combinations of children's blood types from their parents based on Mendel's laws. Something in that telegram had bugged me, so I'd gone to confirm my hunch. I knew it. I should keep this to myself for now. Who knows if I'll ever need it as a trump card. So he noticed something that was off. I assume. What's up with the twins? How can they have blood type O when, well, I guess we don't know the, the mother's blood type, but if the father is AA, then at least one of them should have, they should at least have an A in there, I think. Right? If I'm not mistaken. I didn't even notice that upon just quickly reading over it, but I think that should be the case, right? Who knows if I'll ever need it as a trump card. Yukari and the rest of her class returned to the classroom after the opening ceremony. Kohane approached her as soon as they arrived. Still not here, huh? No. The pair stared at an empty desk. It was Yukiko's seat. Yukari hadn't seen her all day. Have you heard anything, Kohane? No. Kohane shook her head. I wonder what could have happened. Maybe she didn't finish her homework. I doubt that. She isn't like you. Hey, I'm not the tardy one here, aren't I? Did you actually do your book report? As a matter of fact, yeah, I couldn't finish the book I was gonna do it on, though, so I wrote about a different book instead. Oh my, I'm impressed. Yukari was genuinely stunned that her friend had actually done her book homework. I went looking for a quick short story and found the heart of Japan instead. Don't tell me you did it on a short poem. Oh, no, of course not. It seemed Yukari's wild guess had been right on the money. What poem did you choose? While it could hardly be considered a book report, reading a poem and talking about it probably still counted as far as the assignment was concerned. Though personally, Yukari thought that sounded a lot harder than just writing a report on any old book. One of the highest caliber, of course. It wouldn't happen to be one that begins with "In this makeshift hut" by Emperor Tenji, would it? How the heck did you figure it out? Because that's the first poem in 100 verses from old Japan, that's why. The rear door suddenly opened, revealing Yukiko. Oh hey there, Yukiko. Kohane dashed over to their mutual friend. Good morning. Morning, hey, you okay? Uh-huh. Yukiko nodded and tottered toward her desk. Are you not feeling well? I'm a little under the weather, but I'll be fine. Yukiko threw herself across her desk at the moment she sat down. You're sure? You may be better off visiting the infirmary. Don't worry, it's not that bad. Yukiko murmured, voice muffled by the desk. It was then that their homeroom teacher showed up. If you insist, just please speak up if things get any worse. Yukari returned to her desk with that final appeal to Yukiko. Yukiko hardly so much as budged for the rest of the homeroom. It was half day today, so the three friends left before noon. Though Yukiko's face remained ashen, she was at least clearly feeling well enough to walk on her own. Ashen one, huh?
Ashen one, to be unkindled is to be a vessel for souls.
You got a fever? No, this isn't like that. I'll be the judge of that. Hold still, please. Yukari reached out and touched Yukiko's forehead. Well, it looks like you're telling the truth. Then what could it be? I probably just didn't get enough sleep. Yukiko did a little leap back. I'm about to go to the hospital, so you don't have to worry, really. I certainly hope not. Want us to tag along? No, I'll be alright. Yukiko shook her head. I know the way just fine. I've been to this place plenty of times already. Okay, but please don't push yourself, alright? I won't. Thanks, Tokisaka. Well, Yukari and Koane headed home after making sure Yukiko got on the bus.
Senpai.
Oh, Tokisaka. Suddenly, they noticed Ayumu racing up to them. Happy New Year, Sato. Happy New Year, Ayumu. Same to you both. You not have practice today? No, there aren't any tournaments over the winter, so we're focusing on stamina training right now. Is that why you're running? Yes, I jog around the school every morning. Seriously? Damn, and we've got a pretty big campus too. It's only a single kilometer per lap. That's plenty long for me, thank you very much. It would probably take me an hour. Even a child could walk faster than that. And there you have it. The rest is up to you. Masaki looked at me once he was all prepped.
時坂さんが行けばいいじゃ
Can
ない
you
ですか
do this yourself?
俺はこれから人と会う約束
Not when I've got a prior arrangement in the books, I can't.
そんなこと言っても
Oh, come on, you just don't want to have to deal with them, do you?
当たり前だろ
Damn right I don't. I met Masaki's sarcasm with honesty.
あの二人は
Those two are on the top 5 people I don't want to see list. You do realize that goes for me too, right?
そこは
Tough luck, get going. I shooed Masaki away as I checked the clock. If I must, I'll be off then.
それじゃ
Let me guess, it's Yaginuma and I don't know, Natsume maybe or something. Masaki left the office. He'd been absolutely right. I was scared I'd lose control around him. That was why I shared only the necessary details with Masaki and sent him in my place. Oh, maybe he actually was talking about, what's his face, Rokushiki. Still, there was no guarantee he'd actually manage to get anything out of the guy. All I could do was bank on the fact that they'd once been doctor and patient. There was a knock on the door at exactly 1 p.m. Come in. The door opened, revealing one Toji Aoki,
時間ちょうどだな
who just on time.
早く来すぎても迷惑だろうからな
Figured I'd be bothering you if I got here any sooner. Which meant she'd arrived early and waited outside.
まさきが駅へ向かっていったよ
By the way, I saw Masaki heading for the station. You send him out on an errand or something?
ああ
Yeah, he's got business at the MPD now.
あいつにヤギ
Send him to deal with Yaginuma?
あいつより厄介なやつの
No, someone who's even more of a pain in the neck.
望み薄だな
Wouldn't get my hopes up then. Well, she knew instantly who he's talking about, apparently. Toji took off her coat and helped herself to a seat on the sofa, before setting 2 bulky envelopes atop the table.
こっちが警察で保管して
This is
いた
the manuscript for the Shell of Shoal that the police had in their evidence locker, while that one is the manuscript for the Sheep of Purgatorio that was sent to the publisher.
確認してみたか
Have you checked them? I unsealed the envelopes.
説明を受けた時に
I gave them a once-over when they were explained to me.
どうだった
And,
見ればわかる
see for yourself, I removed the 2 manuscripts at her urging. The Shell of Shoal, Shin Katsuragi. First I checked the one labeled The Shell of Shoal Part 2. It was the same one I'd found in the author's own office almost 2 years ago. Surprisingly, it featured no blotches or signs of aging. In fact, the police had preserved it so well that it may very well have been, believed Toji if she said it literally traveled through time. Next, I checked the manuscript for the Sheep of Purgatorio. Though it had also been written in fountain pen, I immediately noticed the ink was a different color.
こいつは別物だな
This was done by someone else, huh? The handwriting was completely different. I mean, I was gonna say the color of the ink shouldn't be the only indication, right? Who it was written by. But the handwriting, of course, would be the same. The handwriting was completely different. I didn't have to be an expert to tell that.
別人が書いたもので
Must have been.
間違いないだろうな
そのことは
Did you tell that to your source at the publisher?
警察で
I
原稿
didn't
を受け取った
know
のが
that
後だ
at the
ったから
time. I got the police's manuscript second, you see.
もちろん
I did tell them I was going to get the handwriting analyzed, of course, but I doubt they'll do anything with the knowledge. Yeah, announcing it was the work of an imposter and ordering an emergency recall would do no favors for anyone involved.
ともあれ
Still,
何者かが
it's all but set in stone now that someone wrote this and sent it under Shin Katsuragi's name.
その可能性は
Can't deny that possibility, but still. I studied the manuscript as I pontificated.
このプルガトリオの
I don't know how to really put this since I'm no expert, but the Sheep of Purgatorio is highly reminiscent of the Shell of Shoal's predecessor,
専門家じゃない
the Egg of Neanis.
それを
So
参考
what?
にして書いたもの
Of course they'd be a lot alike if it was the basis for the Sheep of Purgatorio.
まあそうなんだが
Yeah, you're not wrong, but it's like, well, it feels like a legitimate sequel that that inherited the spirit of its predecessor, that's what.
それだって
Your point?
人の本を読み込む
Any good copycat could do that after reading the
お前は
original.
先入観にとらわれ
You want so badly for there to be clues about Shin Katsuragi in this book that you're letting your hopes get the better of you.
手厳しいな。
Harsh. I couldn't help but grin bitterly. Toji had hit the nail on the head. I believed that I could find Shin Katsuragi through this lead, and in turn, Toko. Ultimately, though, that was nothing more than my own obsession talking.
では一体誰が書いた？
Fine, and who exactly wrote this?
虚栄心を満たそうとしたやつ
Someone with their head up their own ass,
自分にはあの
probably.
人ならば
They likely figured they could write something like that
作者
too.
が失踪しているのならば
And with the author on the run, there'd be nothing to stop it from becoming a big hit.
しかしそれじゃあただの自己
Wouldn't they have nothing to gain from that other than stroking their own ego, though?
見栄を張るなんて
So are
結局自己満足
most
しか
books
ない
any different? Point taken. Still, wouldn't this person really goes so far just to stroke their own vanity? All the praise would go to Shin Katsuragi no matter how rave the reviews after all. Real also would have no way of proving it was their own story even if they claimed as much at a later date. And even a handwriting analysis or fingerprint testing would be a dicey evidence at best.
この原稿指紋の鑑定は
We should test this manuscript for fingerprint. Nah, that would just be a waste of time, wouldn't it? I shook my head when I realized the flaw in my idea.
編集者やいろいろな人の手に触れて
Yeah, I'm sure it's passed through a shitload of hands by now, editors and others alike.
できるとしたら筆跡鑑定
Guess best we can do is a handwriting analysis then. The problem with that was that it would require a suspect's handwriting to compare it to. It would necessitate producing a list of candidates, but discovering the imposter's identity likely wouldn't bring us any closer to finding Shin Katsuragi.
どうするまだ調べる
So tell me, I think we should keep looking into this. Toji pressed me.
毎日
Publisher has asked me to look into the real author's identity in the event I proved it wasn't Shin Katsuragi's work, so it wouldn't be impossible for me to do some more digging.
俺からはその他の
All I can ask is that you prioritize the other matter,
捜査を優
the
先
investigation involving the blessed congregation. That case is still ongoing after all.
事件だからな
The disappearance of Shin Katsuragi, of Toko, was all in the past. Or so I had to keep telling myself anyway.
分かった
That's what you want. Toji donned her coat and got up.
これは回収していく
Then I'll just take these with me and have the handwriting analysis done to be safe. She put the manuscripts back in their envelopes. Wasn't like there was any point in me holding on to them after all.
ではまた
Be seeing you. Toji left the agency. Phew. I sighed and sank into the sofa. We weren't making much progress. But in any case, I had to bring an end to the serial killings as soon as possible. It's risky, but I should try questioning her. I picked up the phone and dialed a particular number. Okay. What? Yukiko went to this place? To get checked up, of all places? Yukiko sat in the infirmary waiting for the doctor to show up. Her heart was racing a mile a minute. Though this wasn't her first time here, the place never failed to unsettle her. This building smelled much more like a church than a clinic. And while she could sense that it wasn't deserted, she barely ever bumped into anyone. It just felt like the people here were always staring at her, studying her behavior like some kind of lab rat. Suddenly the door opened and in walked a man. Dr. Kuroya.
茅原さん
What brings you here today, Kayahara? The man greeted her with an affable smile like always. It was none other than Dr. Kuroya. I've been having bad nightmares recently. They terrify me. Yukiko began spilling her guts with little coaxing. Well, lobotomy it is. They were dreams that couldn't possibly have been real. dreams of her murdering herself. She told him about how she had them every single night. I'm scared I'll go crazy if this keeps up. I know they're just dreams, but it feels like I'm really killing people. Yukiko buried her face in her hands as memories of those dreams threatened to escape their prison. You told me last time that your memory issues were getting worse, didn't you? Yeah, there's this girl I was friends with as a kid, but now I don't even remember her. Your brain's likely trying to supplement the blanks in your memories. It mashes together scenarios that could have plausibly happened in those gaps. But I never... I know you didn't kill anyone, of course not. But how do I put this? Your brain is likely misconstruing events that occurred around the time of these blanks as having happened to yourself. Events that occurred around them. Would explain her dream of that day, of course. Everyone wants to be the protagonist of a story, so it's only natural that they wish they'd been a part of something extraordinary that had happened close to home. Nobody scribbled on this chart. I'll prescribe you some sleeping pills, but please only take them if you can't find any other way to go to sleep. Alright. With that settled, have you given any thought to what we discussed last time? Nobody changed the subject. This was no longer a conversation between doctor and a patient. I haven't made up my mind just yet, but my mother's been good to me, so I want to give back to her. This might very well be the way to do it. Yukiko confessed how she honestly felt. There's no need to rush, I assure you. Nobody smiled. Why not have a word with the founder first? Though I'm not telling you to make up your mind immediately after, of course. Alright. Yukiko just agreed half-heartedly. She wasn't sure how things worked around here. Not even her own doctor's place in the organization was clear. For now, all she wanted was to stop having those nightmares. What if they were really memories? Why, would she be able to forget them? Or would she eventually recall them in full? That was all that worried her. I have to wonder if they actually chose Yukiko as their oracle. They were looking for one, right? So that would make sense. Was what we just heard, I suppose. Masaki took the tram over to Kasumigaseki. The MPD stood right before him. Coming to this place always made him nervous. Mainly because he'd been questioned here numerous times, of course, but being on the opposite end of the interrogation table, like today, wouldn't make him any less tense. Masaki took a few deep breaths before finally entering. Oh, it's you, wonderful. And here I was expecting your boss. Masaki's entrance into CID Section 1 was greeted by a pompous snort courtesy of Yaginuma. Do you not believe you would be far more proficient at handling this man? You're preaching to the choir here, believe me. Masaki didn't believe himself capable of getting information out of Makoto Rokushiki. He was only here on his boss's orders. But Eiji was expecting him to get Rokushiki to sing. However, Masaki didn't share his confidence. Masaki entered the interrogation room. Unlike last time, he was sitting with his back to the wall instead of the window. That shift in perspective alone made the tiny room feel a lot different. I'll be watching from next door. Yaginuma left the room. Masaki reviewed the questions that Eiji had written down for him. How many of these will Rokushiki actually answer, though? Masaki wanted to at least get something out of his former psychiatrist. Not that he'd come this far. Now that he'd come this far, he had to make his opportunity count. I have already been struggling with reading earlier today, you know. I had to record a dumb video for one of my applications. And my god, You know how many times I freaking stumbled over that stupid text. But, you know, whatever. We're used to it at this point. It was then that the door next to him opened. Well, well. If Masaki hadn't known any better, he would have sworn that voice was echoing right from his brain. He tensed up, doing his best not to look at its owner. It would seem that the tables have quite literally turned for us, would you not agree, Masaki? Makoto Rokushiki took a seat across from him. This is all wrong. Tokisaka said he wasn't a talker, especially not right out of the gate. The police officer escorting Rokushiki looked just as surprised as Masaki. Long time no see. It's been about 2 years, hasn't it? Regardless, Masaki tried to play it as cool as he could. Quite. My serious apologies, incidentally, for our sessions ending as abruptly as they did, I mean. That one's entirely on you and your arrest. Masaki resisted the urge to fire off that retort. Though honestly, Rokushiki could probably still tell what was going through his head anyway. Must be fate that we'd meet again like this. What do you say to picking up where our sessions left off? I'll pass. Masaki shook his head in defiance. Don't let him take control of the conversation. Remember what Tokisaka said. I have some questions for you. That's so. Rokushiki's visage shifted to a somewhat emotionless mask. And what would they be? Did you use any of Hinagami Pharmaceuticals' psychotropics during your employment at Kuchiki Hospital? Oh? The former doctor almost looked a little let down. Is that all? And here I assumed you would be questioning me about the late Nurse Kamizono's murder. Masaki bit his lip. That has no bearing on my questions. Besides, asking you would be fruitless since she was killed long after you were detained. Alright, you are. Rokushiki smirked. It's quite asinine how there are so many visitors of mine who have failed to grasp such elementary logic. Anyway, do you know anything about Hinagami Pharmaceuticals? You know, your other visitors probably assumed that you, during your time as a psychiatrist, planted the seeds in someone else's mind, you know. Anyway, do you know anything about Hinagami Pharmaceuticals? Masaki steered the conversation back on topic. Oh, I'm certain you would be far better versed in such a subject, wouldn't you agree? Yokoshiki stared deep into Masaki's eyes, almost like a snake sizing up a frog. I've heard they've developed many new psychotropics. Did you use any of those? Why yes, the very medication I prescribed you was from them. In fact, though there should have been no crippling side effects, so rest assured. I wouldn't know I wasn't on those for long. Are you quite certain? I believe you would have taken a considerable amount had you continued going to that hospital. Even so, I don't see a problem. You said they had no side effects, didn't you? Why, right. Thus your impaired left hand is surely not the work of the medicine. Quite observant, that guy, huh? Masaki instinctively drew his left hand back. I'm aware, yes. By their very nature, illnesses are warning signals from your body that prove it as functioning properly. However, medicine suppresses those, so which one of them truly goes against nature? Makes you wonder, does it not? I'm not here to discuss philosophy. Masaki knew he couldn't afford to follow the beat of Rokushiki's drum. Do you turn off an air raid siren because you can't stand the noise? That is precisely what medicine does. It turns off the alarm, lures you into a false sense of security, and then the air raid commences. What are you getting at? Masaki interrupted, fed up with Rokushiki's fervent rigmarole. Sounds like ligma, if you ask me. Never heard that one before. Or rickroll. for that matter. But I digress. It's like, just blabbering, that kind of stuff, right? Oh, don't mind me. I'm merely rambling. It means absolutely nothing. Finding significance in my drivel is your job. The loquacious criminal ravenously stared at Masaki. No, that was probably just Masaki's mind embellishing the sight before him. Had Reiji not warned him ahead of time, Masaki would have never assumed this man was actually a barbarous serial killer. Rather, he would have taken him to be a mere psychiatrist, nothing more, nothing less. Very well, if I must. Rokushiki exasperatedly shrugged. Hinagami Pharmaceuticals has made staggeringly rapid strides in psychotropics in recent times, launching what was once simply another business in Toyama all the way to Tokyo in the blink of an eye. So I've been told. Masaki had heard that Hinagami Pharmaceuticals established its Tokyo office during his grandfather Hideyomi's reign. But naturally, an outsider such as me would have nary an inkling as to what went on behind the scenes. Rokushiki shook his head with an attitude that suggested he'd surmised everything regardless. Let's move on to a different topic. Masaki decided to abandon that line of questioning after determining Rokushiki wasn't going to give him anything helpful. What? You're aware of Michiru Shirosaki, aren't you? You must have been her doctor after all. Oh yes, I know her quite well. Why, I was treating her long before you even came into the picture. Oh, okay. Honestly, I didn't expect her to get brought up here, but... Tell me about her, please. Only after you tell me what it is you wish to know about her. Can't very well answer you otherwise. Rokushiki goaded Masaki like a teacher. Fine, what was it? What was it that triggered her habit of harming herself? She's still in the hospital? Masaki simply nodded. I know not who succeeded me, but I take it from these questions that she hasn't yet to be cured. What happened to her? You honestly believe a doctor would disclose the answer to that question? Rokushiki grinned. Are you implying you still see yourself as a doctor? Why, yes, of course. And so do you. Is that not why you came here for a session? I'm not here for therapy, I just need some questions answered. Questions that only I, in my capacity as a doctor, can answer, no? Surely you understand that talking to Makoto Rokushiki, the civilian, or Tamaki Saito, the civilian, will yield naught but nattering. Words failed Masaki. It is because I am a doctor that I am entertaining my former patient with a conversation. Oh, so that's it. That explained why Rokushiki was treating him so differently than Reiji had suggested. I can use this. The former patient, Michiru Shirosaki, was almost kidnapped yesterday. However, she refuses to say who was responsible. Would you happen to have any ideas as to why? You really should have just asked that in the first place. Rokushiki sat upright. The reason she will not speak of what happened is simple. She made a promise, that's why. What? How do you friggin' know all that? Why would she ever keep a promise with her own kidnapper, though? What if she did not perceive it as an abduction? Perhaps she considered what happened hardly any different from taking a walk with you. Is that even possible? Would a kidnapper openly announce they were abducting you? Some certainly would. But if they didn't, and had instead simply taken her somewhere, is that why she's in the hospital? Because she doesn't doubt others, or rather simply accepts them as they are. No, she does not suffer from developmental disorders. Rokushiki shook his head. The reason she was abducted likely has to do with her family. You're not insinuating her family kidnapped her, are you? The former psychiatrist shook his head once more. The Shirosakis are members of a religious cult, from what I've heard. Ooh, this is where the blessed congregation comes in, huh? What cult? I have a feeling I know where this is going and I don't like it. Oh yes, I believe it was called the Blessed Congregation. Oh shit. Seems you are familiar with them. Could say that. Why would they be a part of this though? Supposedly Michiro was raised in an orphanage of theirs and adopted by the Shirosakis, who were followers of the Blessed Congregation. Adopted? That's news to me. Anyway, would you agree that members of the Blessed Congregation must have kidnapped her? Are you trying to make me decide that for you? That was probably impossible. Only Masaki himself could investigate further and make that connection. Michiro supposedly developed her mental disorder back when she was raised in that orphanage, but it only got worse after the Shirosakis adopted her, hence why she was sent to the hospital. Rokushiki suddenly touched upon Michiro's past unprompted. So we do remember that Michiro told Reiji, I think, at one point that her parents aren't visiting her all that often. So, yeah, that would explain why. Was she abused? That was likely part of it, yes. There are many cases where abuse leads to acts of self-harm. However, that merely worsened what was already there. Put simply, she was mentally ill even before any of that. Her eye is proof enough. Then all of a sudden, Rokushiki clapped. My throat aches. It would appear I have spoken a tad too long. What happened to her? I dare say, it certainly is fun to converse. It has been so long that my tongue may have been a little too generous for my liking. And with those words, Rokushiki shut his mouth. Masaki quickly realized that the generosity he spoke of had been the details of Michiro's past. However, knowing all that didn't help. He had more facts, but no answers. Not on Michiro's past, and definitely not on Hinagami Pharmaceuticals. Rokushiki had simply mapped out random pieces of information, never once giving his own personal outlook on them. Just then, the man himself got to his feet and headed for the door. Police officer hastily burst into the room and restrained him. Masaki certainly couldn't have faulted the officer's panic. Even he had been half convinced that the Rokushiki would have simply strolled right out the MPD's front door if not stopped. Take him away. He handcuffed the Rokushiki. The Rokushiki was escorted back to his cell at Yaginuma's behest. Masaki couldn't get a read on what his former psychiatrist was singing. He certainly was a chatterbox today, but that's all he did, chat. Indeed, it had hardly felt like he'd divulged any useful information. Well, we'll only find out later how that is going to be helpful for us, I suppose. Okay, anywho, it was already evening by the time I finished preparing for tonight. Maybe I'll grab a bite to eat before the meeting. Where should I go? What meeting, anyways? Well, let's just have a look where we can go. Ueno Station was a center of hustle and bustle. Unlike last week though, the majority appeared to be coming home from work rather than leaving for vacation. It was amongst them that I spotted Toji carrying a suitcase.
Yo, Toji.
Hey there, Toji. Oh, it's you. Going somewhere? Just headed to sushi. Oh yeah. That's where those lovebirds are. You're taking a dip in the hot springs or something? No, just giving them my New Year's greetings. I'll stay the night and return tomorrow. Give them my regards. Will do. Toji readjusted her hold on her suitcase and entered the station. She'd probably get roped into babysitting while there. Though she had my sympathies, it was none of my concern. I cared much more about my growling stomach, honestly. I'd like to get a little snack in. Unfortunately, there wasn't anything in the area I wanted to eat, so I took off. Choosing to ignore the somewhat crestfallen old man standing all by his lonesome behind the takoyaki stall. Man, you could have just bought something from takoyaki, bro, huh? Okay, let's see what the other ones have in store for us. What in the world had compelled me to come here when I was looking for a snack? I mean, it wasn't like I was craving hospital food or anything. They claimed it was healthy, but it always tasted like shit. But in any case, there were restaurants in the area, so I decided I'd hit one of them up instead. However, just as it turned to go, I spotted Michiru sleeping between the benches in front of the reception desk. Gonna catch a cold sleeping out here, kiddo. I shook her shoulder, knowing I couldn't possibly leave her to the wolves now that I'd seen this. Michiru slowly woke up. Why the heck are you sleeping out here?
眠れなかったから
Didn't get any sleep.
自分の部屋のベッドで寝ろよ。
Then take a nap in your own bed.
そこは嫌
Don't wanna. Scared of it. Michiru shook her head.
何かあったのか。
Did something happen?
うん
No. Again with a denial. Still, I knew she wouldn't have gotten scared of her bed for no reason.
白崎さん
There you are, Shirosaki. Oh, Mr. Tokisaka. I wasn't expecting to see you. Nanako came in from just down the hall.
こんなところにいたの
What are you doing here, Shirosaki? Do you have any idea how worried I was when I didn't find you in your room?
そこは
Scary there.
今朝も
She had another episode this morning. Nanako sighed. An episode? Yes, with, well, you know. Nanako surreptitiously massaged her left eye. It sounded like Michiru had clawed at her left eye socket just as I'd seen her do the months before.
怖い夢でも見たのかしら
Did you have a nightmare or something? Nanako asked the question warily, but Michiru didn't so much as bat an eye. Well, she only has one eye to bat, but, you know. Okay, well, just take a look at the other two, I guess. Took a stroll around Inokashira Park's pond. There was hardly anyone in the area, probably because the moisture made this place even chillier in an already cold winter. With the notable exception of Yukiko sitting on a bench and staring out at the pond.
寒くないのかい？
You're not cold or anything? Oh. She made a quiet sound when she noticed me.
時坂さんのお兄さん
Tokisaka's brother.
何かが見えるのか
Were you looking at something? I followed her line of sight. A pigeon was squatting at the base of a tree by the pass.
後が寒そうで
Pigeon looks cold.
俺には君の方が
Not as much as you do, if you ask me.
私は
That's not true,
そうでもありません
said the girl whose lips were going purple.
どこか悪いの
Are you feeling sick or something?
病院で
A little, but don't worry, I already saw a doctor.
だったら家に帰るなりして
And you should go home and warm yourself up.
いい
そうですね
Yeah, that sounds lovely. Yukiko rose to her feet.
もう少し
Well, I'll take a little walk around first, then I'll head home. I wanted to tell her she'd be better off going home ASAP, but I knew I had no place forcing her.
無理はするんじゃないぞ
Just don't push yourself, alright?
え
Yes, I
え
won't.
待っています
Thank you very much for your concern. Yukiko bowed and left. I wasn't so sure I could take her at a word, but there was nothing I could do about it. For now, I'd just go to Moonworld and offer to escort her home if I happen to find her still wandering around later. That sounded like the best course of action. Are you sure about that? Okay, let's check out the last one. Moonworld. I went to Moonworld. This was where it set the meeting. That said, I still had some time to kill, and so I figured I'd let Kyoko know in advance. Mostly because I'd never lived the teasing down if she got the wrong idea. Inside was Kyoko staring off into space as she loitered behind a counter.
Kyoko?
Kyoko? Huh? Oh, Tokisaka. She flashed me an empty grin.
どうした
What's wrong? Not feeling well? No, I'm fine. Just hold on a minute and I'll go whip you up some coffee.
あと軽く食べるものも頼む
Add a light snack while you're at it. Coming right up. Will a sandwich do?
あ任せろ
Yes, thanks. I studied Kyoko's face as she prepped my order. She glanced at the floor and sighed from time to time. Maybe she's tired. Here you are. Kyoko served me a sandwich and a steaming hot cup of coffee.
なあ京子
Say, Kyoko. Yes? Touched Kyoko's forehead when she drew close to me.
熱は
Guess you don't have a fever. Sheesh, don't startle me like that.
疲れているんじゃない
You
のか
tired? No, I'm wide awake. Kyoko shook her head, but I'd known her for ages. As such, I could tell when she was pushing herself, and this was definitely one of those times. Though that said, I could also tell she'd never admit it if I said as much to her.
夜にちょっと客を連れてくるから
I'll bring an acquaintance over here tonight. Thus I decided to change the subject.
あら、どちら様？
Oh, who is it?
仕事の相手だよ
Someone I know for work. Just want to have a little chat with them.
女の人でしょ。
It's a lady, isn't it? How the hell was she so sharp?
どうしてそう思う
What makes you think that?
男の人だ
Because
っ
at
た
the
ら
very least, you wouldn't have invited a man for a meeting anywhere outside the agency. Damn, she's good. I typically brought men to the office because it was too much of a pain to meet them elsewhere.
とまあそういうわけだから
So anyway, yeah, I'd appreciate it if you could reserve the table farthest from the door for us.
構わないわよ。
Certainly. Not like I'll be getting many customers anyway. That's, depressing, but, you know, for her at least. Well, you know. Okay, so, I don't know, man. None of these seemed, like, particularly important or anything, so I'm not so certain. If I had to take a guess, I guess we could either go for Yukiko or we'll see what Michiru is, you know, if that helps in any way. Let's go with Michiru because it feels like she's getting more important to the story now. So maybe. But in the end, I don't really know which spot would be the best one to pick. Kichijoji Station Square was wreathed in shadows. The gates spewed out office workers who were all done for the day. And before long, I spotted her amongst them.
こちらですhinagamiさん
Over here, Miss Hinagami.
こんばんは、時坂。
Oh, he invited to Karen. Good evening, Mr. Tokisaka. Karen Hinagami strutted over to me.
何か重要なお
You
話
said you wanted to discuss something important, correct?
ええあちらの集落で
Yes, it also concerns the murder that happened in Hitogata.
なぜ私を
Why take this up with me?
それは
I'll get to that in good time. Follow me. I led her down an alley toward Moonworld.
ここですか
Is this the place? Karen took stock of the cafe.
とても良い雰囲気のお店ですね
Must say, I rather like the atmosphere.
ええ
Can say that again. That's why I've been a patron here for so long. Though it was debatable whether I could actually be called patron.
いらっしゃいませ
Welcome.
僕の席使わ
We're
せてもらうぞ
taking the table in the corner.
ええ、どうぞ
Of course, it's all yours. Kyoko, whom I'd already informed of my evening plans, immediately showed us to the table in question. She looks kinda jittery. Hope it's nothing too serious.
食事は
Would you like something to eat?
結構です
I'll pass, but thank you for the
紅茶を
offer.
いただけますか
Might I have some tea?
だそうだ
Well, you heard the lady.
コーヒーを頼む
I'll have some coffee myself.
かしこまりました
Coming right up. Kyoko returned to the counter and got to work.
事件
So tell me, exactly what it was it you wish to discuss?
ええ昨年末から続いている
The case, that is to say, the murders tied to your brother started late yet last year. Wouldn't he be a better person to talk this over with then?
聞きましたよ
Oh, I have. Plenty of times.
それであなたにも
That's why I'm now
お話を
turning
伺
to
いたい
you.
です
I say, well, I certainly don't mind. Kyoko returned with our orders in hand.
どうぞ
Yeah.
ありがとうございます
Thank you very much.
何かありましたら
You're welcome. Please let me know if you need anything else. Kyoko went straight back to work after that little exchange.
綺麗な方ですね
She's quite a beauty, no? Karen-eyed Kyoko.
さて
He's not even gonna acknowledge that, huh? Reiji. But we know he likes her, so I guess he doesn't have to comment on it. Let's get down to business, shall we? I ignored her and finally broke the ice.
率直にお聞きします 一連
Cut
の
right
事
to
件
the
に関して
chase. What do you make of these serial killings? It's a rather vague question when you agree. Hardly what I'd consider cutting to the chase. Karen counted me without missing a beat. She was quick on her feet, that much was sure. It seemed she hadn't earned her job as her father's secretary through nepotism alone.
失礼しました
Pardon me, I'll rephrase that then.
あなたのお兄さんの
What do you make of the fact that all the victims were your brother's bridal candidates? Hopefully she would be more receptive to that one.
兄を疑っているのですか
You suspect my brother? Karen glared at me, her voice laced with a tinge of venom.
そういうわけではありません
No, not at all. I've already proved his
証
innocence.
明されています
I waved my hands to pacify Karen. You always have to pacify the Karens, right? She sipped her tea as I waited for her response.
全員が兄の婚約者候補だ
This
っ
is
た
the
というのは
first
初耳
I've
です
heard of the victims all being Ayato's bridal candidates, though.
なのでしょうね
My father must have picked them on his own.
どなたが候補だったことをご存知
Were you aware of the identities of the candidates?
高宮さんが選ばれていたというの
Only
は
Takamiya, and that came after the fact Miss Sawashiro informed me on the train ride over to Hitogata. Oh, so already after it happened. I should double check this with Nanako Sawashiro later.
こちらで高宮さんとはお会いになりました
Did you ever meet with Miss Takamiya while she was in town?
いいえ
No, I didn't.
会えませんでした
I knew she was visiting, but I
こ
was
ちらに
just
来る
so
ことは知
busy.
っていたのですが
What I wouldn't give to redo those days, though. Karen's teacup trembled in her hand.
話を
Are
戻し
you
ましょう
lying? Let's get back on topic. I sipped my coffee to quench my thirst.
あなたの兄
All the victims have been your brother's bridal candidates. It's on this basis that I've developed a hypothesis about the killer's motive.
仮説というか
犯人
What is that?
ええ
I suspect they don't want your brother becoming the head of the family.
ないという思いです
それが
That's why they're doing this? I take it he's been the heir apparent since birth, and that would also include him inheriting Hinagami Pharmaceuticals, would it not?
確かに
Well, it is true that my grandfather is the company's chairman, while my father is its president,
これから
but I
の
don't believe this sort of family management structure will thrive much longer in the modern age.
そういう
Oh,
話を
I must say, I never expected to hear that from you.
会社の発展には
It's just business. Issuing stock is essential to the development of a company, while family management can only do so much on its own.
会社の実験を
True enough. You can't just go issuing stock left and right when you want to keep hold of the reins of a power in a company.
経営にもお詳しいようですね
You get your degree in management or something?
まさか
Not at all.
の知識で
Just happen to know a thing or two.
しかし
At any rate, I'm not sure I buy your theory. Would someone really commit murder after murder just to ensure my brother doesn't inherit the company?
実はそこが不思議でしたね
I'm glad you brought it up, because that's actually the biggest hole in this premise. If your criminal didn't want Ayato inheriting the company, why not just kill him? Why take out his bridal candidates instead?
そうですね
A very valid point.
しかし犯人に
So
は
this leads me to believe the culprit can't kill him,
考えられる
and I can
のは
come up with two theories as to why. Either he's the culprit himself, or the culprit isn't capable of doing so for some reason.
あなたは先ほど
Didn't you just say you already proved Ayato's innocence?
考えられる可能性を
I was merely listing the possibilities, that's all. What matters at the moment is the fact that the murderer can't kill him for some reason.
随分と曖昧ですね。
Rather vague.
そうですね
Alright, you are. However, that reason is quite simple.
理由など簡単です
Either they don't know where he
彼
is,
の居場所が
or
つ
he's
かめない
family to them.
どうやら私を
Sounds like you're implying I'm the culprit.
そんなことは
Not at all, though I admit that's a possibility.
可能性の
After all,
一つ
you're
としては
likely next in line to take over the family should anything happen to him.
彼に何かがあった場合あと
私がひながみ家を
Hardly.
継ぐのはありえ
I'm
ませんね
infertile, you see. Well, you know, he already knew that.
子孫を育む機能が備わっておりませんから。
それでも婿養
Is
子
finding a man to marry into the family not in the cards.
何も分かっていらっしゃらないのですね。
You have no idea how the Hinagamis work, do you?
血を継ぐことが
Continuing the bloodline that...
重要なのです
Continuing the bloodline's that important?
そのようですね。
Apparently, yes. Hence why I'm not a viable successor for either the family or Hinagami
ひな
Pharmaceuticals.
がみ製薬を手に入れることもありえません。
Well, that's rough. I've been wondering about all that ever since I first heard Karen was infertile, but it really did seem the patriarch's bloodline came first and foremost in the Hinagami family after all.
そうでしたか
I say,
無礼なことを言って
I apologize for my heedless remarks then,
分かってくださればいいんです。
just so long as you understand.
しかしそう
But in that case, who would take
もし
over in lieu of
後がつかな
Ayato?
かった場合
兄が行方知れず
With
だったの
several
は
backups in place while my brother was missing, they included talks of having either Uncle Yuzuru or Naori succeed the family.
だがどれ一つ
Ayato was found before any of them could be
隼人君が見つか
put into play, I take it.
ええ
Right, we were just preparing for the worst case scenario.
なるほど
I say. But I mean, Yuzuru is a Hinagami after all, so you know. Technically, anyway, even though he married into another family. In that case, maybe I was better off dropping the theory that the murderers were all about taking control of the Hinagami family. Karen had given me solid answers on that front, even though it would have meant asking her some leading questions. Still, everything she said added up for the time being. If there was anything suspicious, it was just how calm she was.
事件の話に戻りましょう
Let's get back to the case. The culprit's crime remains the same regardless of their motive.
その
My goal was to nail this killer. Though that went without saying, naturally, I couldn't lose sight of that.
今回の事件現場が大きく
These serial
二つに分
killings
か
are
れています
divided into two stages, Tokyo and Hitogata.
集落
They may be far apart, but the deaths can all still be considered the work of the same serial killer, don't you agree?
そのようですね。
All the victims have been Ayato's bridal candidates, so that sounds like a reasonable assumption, yes. Karen nodded.
ええ
Right, and certain individuals were present at both locations at the time of the murders.
どちらにもいた人物が存在します
Those would be the ones who visited Hitogata from Tokyo. Me, Miss Sawashiro, my brother, and you too, correct?
あなたもそうですね。
It was the Reiji all along. The big plot twist. That doesn't make any sense at all. Karen sized me up.
まさかご自身が調べているか
I
ら
hope you're not planning to suggest that you couldn't possibly be the killer because you're investigating the case.
そこまで不遜なことは言いません
No, I wouldn't dare be so
世の
arrogant.
中には捜査してい
There
る
have been
ような
many
犯人
mystery
という
novels where the
探偵
culprits
小説が
turned out to be one of the investigators after all.
ではご自身が
And how can you
犯人では
prove
ない
it
という
wasn't
証
you?
拠を見せて
被害者を殺す
Simply, I had no
理由
reason to kill the victims, though I'm aware that's not exactly convincing on its own.
されないでしょうね
ええもち
Of
ろん
course not. For all I know, you could be hiding something and I'd be none the wiser. Man, I was hoping to keep this trump card up my sleeve until the last moment, but if I must...
私が犯人ならば少なくとも
Ah, but if I was the murderer, then there's at least one person I'd have to kill. Huh? That was the first time she'd sounded so genuine this whole meeting.
私ですか
You mean me?
あなたを殺す理由は
No, I doubt the culprit has reason to kill you. After all, she couldn't possibly have been one of her own brother's bridal candidates.
では一体誰が
Then who? I have to handle this delicately. Oh, what the heck? I don't know about this, man, because, should we actually really... Should we really say Futami Yu? Because that does not sound like a good idea, you know. She is, or she was anyway, a bridal candidate, but, what about hers? That was the other one. Oh, the other name on the list. Let's try her.
どなたですか
Who's that?
知らないのでしたらそのままにしていただけると助
If
か
you
り
don't
ま
know
す
them, then it's best it stays that way. And okay, that was wrong. When he was talking about trump card earlier, then that was related to that whole genetics thing, wasn't it? And I don't know, the only thing I really noticed on that was, you know, the fact that, you know, their blood types seemed kind of weird, but... let's have another look at the... Oh, where is that again? There's a way you can look at the evidence. Where's that stuff about, yeah, this one here. List of blood types of people involved with the case provided by Yuzuru. Hideyomi Mariko. Yeah, so that's very possible that he just got AA, but why do they have both O? And then there's these two here. Michio, B-O, Mia is O. Yeah, that's possible. Those all seem fine, but why have these two got B-O, both O, I mean, not B-O. Yikes. I'm afraid I'll just have to try you and see what happens. Because I don't really know what else I should click, you know? She's the only one that makes sense here. But... I don't want to bring her into danger. I don't know if she's potentially sus, you know? She could be. I'm sorry, you. I hope you don't die because of that. I'll never forgive myself if it's the case.
なぜですか
Why?
それについては説明でき
Can't
ません
say. Nope, it wasn't her. I wonder if Yuka is in any way relevant here because she's like the odd one out, right? What about her?
そうですね
Oh wait, I accidentally... Yeah, I'm not sure what they want from me here.
私は
Quite
犯人
honestly. I mean, we can just like click through these and see if one of those if one of these does something. Or yeah. How about Mizuki? What's her face? How about her?
その方は
そうですね
No, we're talking about someone who's still alive, right? What about her? I don't know, because she stood like on the list, but only her name, like? No. What about Nanako? I mean, I don't know if that makes sense, but you know.
なぜですか
Why?
それについては
I
説明
can't say. Maybe I shouldn't have thrown out. Yaginuma, the bridal candidate, of course. Sure. I don't know. I mean, whatever, it can't be right, but she has to be...
そのか
そうですね。
Well, shall we have a look in the guide then, maybe, because... I don't know. So, this is the guide, apparently. And, where are we here at the moment? This is already after the, No, I don't know. Hello, this is future Miho, who is currently editing the video. So obviously choosing Masaki makes no logical sense here, which is why I'm thinking that maybe the game wants you to choose anyone but the actual bridal candidates, just to test Karen's reaction. However, as you have seen, the game makes you think that you messed up, no matter who you end up choosing. There's one more choice that we haven't tried yet, which is the daughter of Midori Yoshino, who was written on the bridal candidate list as a placeholder. But we couldn't have known the daughter's identity at that point in time. I went back with the appropriate knowledge and checked the outcome, but it's just Karen's usual "who's that" line. So essentially, I don't really see the purpose of this choice. Maybe there are negative consequences if you pick Futami-yu or the mystery candidate in question in the long run, but I wasn't able to confirm that yet. In any case, you can reach the normal and true ending of the game while picking Masaki. Back to the playthrough. Let me just confirm that this is the right path. Let's see if the next thing is if we're gonna encounter Yukiko just in a moment when we made this decision. It's your turn. Can you prove to me that you're not the culprit?
そうですね。
Fair enough. Karen calmed down and looked up.
被害者は兄の婚約者候補だったということですが。
The victims may have been Ayato's bridal candidates, but I wasn't privy to their identities. I believe my father can vouch as much. Testimony from a relative is generally considered unreliable. But well, we'll let that slide, I suppose. It was impossible to prove she didn't know, but I really wasn't one to talk, considering how fishy my own evidence was and all. Besides, she likely didn't know the exact candidates. After all, it seemed Shizuru had guarded the secret well. Now, let me ask you again, what's your take on these serial killings, Karen Hinagami?
兄を陥れるための犯行だと。
I believe they're being done to frame Ayato.
その可能性は高いと自分も
Seeing that's pretty likely too. Anya was indeed detained as the prime suspect.
身柄を拘束された。
そのようです
So I've heard.
ですが正直
But honestly, I'd been expecting to hear something else from you.
考えを持っていると思っていました。
何ですか
And what would that be? Karen furrowed her brow.
あの集落で
Something that would seem perfectly natural to anyone who was born and raised in Hitogata.
すなわち
The curse of Lord Hina.
ヒンナ様のたたりです。
What? All of a sudden, the door to the cafe slammed open. My eyes were instinctively drawn to the noise.
邪魔しますよ。
Coming in.
毎度どうも店長さん。
We'll be making ourselves at home like always, boss lady. Two men sauntered into the cafe. They were sketchy types who didn't mesh with the mood of the place at all. Oh, welcome. Kyoko's face visibly tensed. Something's not right here. Just as I was about to get
お
up.
っとごめんよ。
Whoops, my foot slipped. One of the men kicked the nearby stool.
おやめねえか。
Hey, cut it out, will ya? We ain't here to cause a scene. The older of the men rebuked his companion.
すいません兄貴。
Sorry, bro.
さて。
Let's just get down to business, boss lady. The man planted his elbow on the counter and leaned toward Kyoko.
そろそろ約
You do know your deadline's coming up, don't you? Well, yes, but will you leave it at that? I spoke up right when Kyoko shot me a frightened look. The hell are you? The younger man threatened me. He was big and burly, but didn't appear to be much older than 20. Tokisaka, came here to relax and enjoy a nice cup of coffee, but you two assholes just had to barge in and spoil that for me. I held my hand out to Kyoko and goaded the man as I scanned the area. Fortunately, I had enough space to dodge in the event they started throwing fists. And luckily enough, there wasn't anything fragile around. What, trying to act cool because you've got a broad with you? The man sized me up with a glare before abruptly turning his attention to Karen. Damn, no, that's a fine piece of ass. Would you please not touch me? Karen swatted his hand away and got up when he reached out toward her. You bitch! Realizing she'd made a fool out of him, the man lunged at Karen. Shit, this is bad. But before I could stop him... Believe I ask you not to touch me. Karen slipped past his arms and gave him a little push on the back. Whoa. The man fell to the floor. Ruffians such as you truly are the bottom of the barrel. Karen coldly loomed over the man. Ugh, fucking tramp! Not so fast now. The man got up and swung his fist, but this time I was there to grab his arm and pin him to the floor. What do you say we leave it at that? I locked the man's shoulder and wrist in place. Trying to slug a woman? Seriously? I hope you realize you're making an even bigger ass out of yourself than you already have, so just quit while you're ahead. Hey, let my buddy go, will ya? The older man at the counter addressed me. I will if you guys take a hike. Fine, you win. He retreated to the door. Once I saw that, I dragged his body to his feet, still keeping his arm locked, and slowly hauled him over to his friend. Sorry, bro. Good seeing you, boss lady. The man fled the cafe. Phew. Well, color me impressed. You can take the man out of the war, but you can't take the war out of the man. Though I wouldn't have stood a chance if it were 2-on-1. Still, that didn't mean I couldn't handle a punk who'd never so much as set foot on a battlefield. Damn, I really am getting up in the years, aren't I? You surprised me too, I have to say. Was that Aikido? The way she dodged that man hadn't been the footwork of an amateur, that much was for sure. Something like that. Anyway. Karen glanced at the counter. Oh shit, are you okay, Kyoko? My blood went cold when I saw Kyoko cowering behind the counter. Yeah. Kyoko staggered to her feet. Her face was pale as a ghost, her lips quivering. Here, take a seat. Okay. I made Kyoko sit on a counter stool. I'll just see myself out then. Karen got to her things and headed for the door. Will you make yourself available over the phone whenever I need to speak to you? Yes, of course. I won't be going anywhere, rest assured. And as for the curse of Luotina, I've completely forgotten about it because I won't be inheriting the family. With that, Karen left the cafe. Now that was a poor life if I've ever heard one. There was no way in hell she could have just forgotten something like that. Not that it mattered, I had bigger fish to fry at the moment. Kyoko. Kyoko buried her face in her hands. I could think of nothing else to say as I watched her quietly sob. There was much I wanted to ask her, but I figured it would probably be for the best if I waited for her to open up first. And so I put all the chairs and tables that had been knocked over back into position in the meantime. Fortunately, none of the glasses or dishes had broken. Thank you, Tokisaka. Kyoko wiped her tears and looked up. I'm sorry. Come on, you've got nothing to apologize for. Kyoko huddled up to me after I sat down next to her.
あの人たちが来たのは
This isn't the first time those men have been here. Figured as much.
お正月
Remember how I told you I'd taken out loans? Well, that was them. Debt collectors, huh? In that case, you probably hadn't seen the last of them. Sogs like that were serious trouble because they could do whatever they damn well pleased on the legitimate pretext of collecting their dues.
前にも言ったが
Are you sure you don't want to move in with me and Yukari? It's way too dangerous to stay here.
あまりにも危険だ
Thank you, but I'll be fine. Kyoko gently took my hand into hers.
あの人たちの目的は
Those men just want their money, that's all.
回収することだから
Could feel her shivering as much as she tried to hide it. There wasn't any guarantee that those punks would resort to extreme violence. Maybe I should live here for a while or some.
私は大丈夫だ
I'll
から
be alright, really. I looked Kyoko in the eye. Her cheeks were still marred with tear stains. Kyoko. Gingerly coiled my arm around her waist. Suddenly the door opened, prompting me to look over my shoulder. Oh, Yukiko was standing at the entrance.
あの、お邪魔
Am I interrupting something?
ごめんなさいね
Nah, you were. I mean, you did come at a little bit of an unfortunate time, but, you know. You couldn't have known. No, I'm sorry. Kyoko wiped her eyes and rose to her feet.
今日はもう閉店だから時坂くん
We're already closed for the day, unfortunately. Say, could you do something for me,
な
Tokisaka?
んだ
What is it?
彼女ゆきこちゃん
Take
を
Yukiko home, would you? It's rather late.
私
Huh?
は
Oh, no, it's fine. I'll be alright on my own.
京子
Kyoko?
お願い時坂くん今あなたに
Please, Tokisaka, if I take you up on your kindness, then I'll be crossing a line I can never come back from. Kyoko whispered those words into my ear. Right. Okay, so this is definitely... The decision was definitely for the character selection that we made there. That was not just a mistake. And yeah, that's interesting, I guess, at least. But it does not make particularly a lot of sense to select Ayato there, if I'm being completely honest. But, you know, we'll just go roll with it, I suppose. We at least know that we didn't do the completely wrong thing there. But oh well. I'll make a save here in any case.
わかった
Okay. Didn't want Kyoko to
しっか
change.
りと鍵をかけてな
Make sure you lock up. Don't open the door for anyone else
開けるんじゃな
today.
いぞ
I won't.
ゆきこ
Take
ちゃ
care,
んのこと
Yukiko.
よろしくね
あの
I'll be fine, really.
平気ですから
そうもいかないさ最近は
Sorry, but I
この後
can't
も
take you at
物騒
your
だ
word. It's been dangerous around these parts lately. Not that any of that likely concerned her, mind, but it never hurt to be too careful. Then again, if those punks were to stick up someone, it would probably be me.
送り狼になっちゃダメよ
Don't go making any passes on her, you understand? Kyoko teased me when Yukiko wasn't looking. Yukiko and I strolled down the dark streets, stretching from Musashi Sakai Station until we arrived at her apartment complex.
さっきのは
Yukiko stopped just as abruptly as she'd begun.
なんだい
What is it?
お邪魔
I'm terribly sorry for interrupting you
すい
two.
ませんでした
いや邪魔なんてこと
Nah, you weren't interrupting anything. There were times and places for intimate moments. That had certainly not been one of them. Still, that didn't change how worried I was for Kyoko's safety.
葉月さんのこと考え
Are you
て
thinking about Miss Hazuki?
ちょっとね
A little. I answered honestly.
どういうこ
What exactly is your relationship?
ゆかりから聞いていないのかい
You mean Yukari hasn't told you? Yukiko shook her head.
まあただの
He's just
昔
an old friend of mine, that's all, really. Friend with benefits, to be precise, but that is not something Yukiko needs to know.
そうは見えませんでし
It's
た。
not what it looked like to me.
いろいろあるんだ
Let's
よ
just say it's complicated. Explaining it would have been a Herculean labor for sure.
あの、
Yukiko stopped short yet again. Something else in your mind?
相談いいですか？
Would you mind if I ask you for some advice?
俺に答えられること
Sure, though I can't guarantee it'll be any help.
あの、私、
Well, the thing is,
将来に悩んでい
I'm worried about my future. Yukiko stared, confiding in me. Hers was a tale as old as time for boys and girls her age.
何かなりたいものがあ
Is
る
there anything you want to be?
それは、
Not that I can think of, no. Yukiko feebly shook her head.
わからないから。
That's exactly why this is giving me such a headache.
なるほどね
I see. She probably wouldn't have been so worried if she'd already had a goal in mind. Not that I could say for certain, of course.
私は、
Should I do?
いいでしょうか？
A rather tough question, to be sure, and one I wasn't positive I was equipped to
まず
answer.
はやりたいことを考える方が先じゃないかな
I think you should consider what you want to do first and foremost, not what you want to be.
やりたい。
What I want to do? Well, I want to help my mother.
母の助けになりたいです。
だったらどうすればいい
Shouldn't that be all the answer you need?
なるんじゃないのかな
Even just helping Fuyumi at the nursery would be more than good enough.
そう。
I suppose. Yukiko nodded, though she didn't look entirely won over.
あの、うちに。
It's cold out here, so why don't you come inside? Yukiko entered the complex with those words. I followed, unable to find it in myself to refuse.
あら、あらあら。
Oh, well, what have we here? Fuyumi made a surprised sound in the midst of munching on a rice cracker.
どうもこんばんは
Good evening, ma'am.
ここまで送ってもらったから。
He escorted me home.
送り狼？
Trying to make a move on my baby girl, eh?
違います
Hell no.
着替えてくるから。
Would you make Mr. Tokisaka some tea, Mom?
坂さんに
I'm going to get changed. Yukiko left me and her mother in the living room.
覗きに行く？
You hear that? Free peep show if you dare. What is wrong with you, woman?
行きませんよ
Are you crazy?
あの子はもう少し。
You know, she could stand to cut loose a little more. Yumi headed for the kitchen.
やっぱり私と血がつながっていない
Maybe she's holding back because I'm not a real mother or something. I'd hope that wouldn't come between us, though.
そんなことはないと
I
思い
doubt
ます
that's it. After all, this was the same girl who'd been racking her brains over how to help her mother mere minutes ago.
いろいろと思い詰めているみたいだけど。
Looks to me like she's got a ton on her mind, too. Wish she'd open up to me a little. Fuyumi set a steaming cup of tea on the
身
table.
内だからこそ言えないことだってあると思いますよ
There are some things you can't tell family, I think, especially around her age. I clutched a cup, warming my hands.
妹さんのこと？
Your sister like that?
うちの妹に限らず
It's
ですよ
not just her. I sipped my tea. My chapped lips warmed in a flash.
探偵として人の悩み相談を
You're a
聞いたり
detective,
するの？
right? Doesn't that mean you ask people about what's eating at them?
それは俺の仕事じゃありませんよ
Nah, that's not my job. Yukiko came back, garbed in the fresh change of clothes at the exact moment.
送ってくださってありがとうございました。
Thank you so much for walking me home.
そういえば、
Oh yeah, I'm curious, where did you two bump into each other?
あ、その
Oh,
月世界で。
Moon World. Yukiko blushed.
ふーん。
Oh,
何かあったの？
something juicy happened.
いや別に
Please. Fuyumi smirked as if she'd figured out what Yukiko had walked into, so I answered her with the best poker face I could muster. You didn't have to know about everything that had only just gone
で
down.
は自分はこれで
I'll be going now. I got up after finishing my tea.
もっとゆっくりしていけばいいのに。
Oh, come on, you can kick back a little longer, no?
もう夜も遅いですから
Not when it's this late, sorry.
ありがとうございます
Thank you so much for early again. I left the Kayahara residence, both mother and daughter seeing me off. Huh, okay. Ooh, murder. Not again. Not another dream. I thought I'd stopped having these. I had to wake up. However, my body refused to so much as budge. Am I already awake? No. My mind was still at the bottom of the sea of slumber. That was why I was swaying back and forth, witnessing sights I'd never before seen. I struggled to swim to the surface to escape the dream. However, despite my best efforts to stir my limbs into action, my body would not respond. The shaking before me grew stronger and stronger. Oh no, I'm getting sucked in. My body moved. No, something moved it. I was strangling someone in front of me against my will. Who they were, I couldn't say. And yet I wept despite not knowing them. But though I was crying, my body wasn't shedding tears. My fingers dug into their neck. I didn't possess enough strength to strangle someone like this, like a rag doll. That was how I knew this was a dream. It had to be a dream. I kept telling myself that over and over. I could tell whoever I was strangling wore a twisted expression of sheer agony. And yet I couldn't remember their face, no matter how hard I racked my brain. Wait, I know you. Yes, the one I was strangling was... Oh, did she actually remember? Must have been Yukiko again, right? With her having these dreams. Again? Because she went to Naori to be treated about that. Alright, well, I guess this is as good a point to stop for today as any, I suppose. I will look through this again to see if I can maybe figure out what the deal is with that character selection. Maybe this is actually the point where I have to just pretend not to know anything for the time being. And maybe I have to pick something else when when we're going for the true ending later on, because, this is like,
Oi, Okiro.
this is, you have to get a normal ending first before you can get a true ending for some reason or another. And yeah, maybe that's reserved for later, but, yeah, no. But yeah, in any case, thank you very much for stopping by. And until next time, I'll have it figured out. And yeah, until then, have a good one and take it easy. Bye-bye.